Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to episode 284 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it is me, Karak, with ACG.
And I'm Dustin with Last Stand Media and Handsome Phantom.
I don't know why we all became scientific right there. I don't know.
We did.
When you asked me, I was like, suddenly I was just like, perfect pronunciation for some weird reason.
I was going to say, Dustin, I'm impressed you didn't stumble on your words. The amount of times I've accidentally said Colin's Last Stand.
Right.
We are now Last Stand Media, are we not? And so,
that's right. Big
I'm
old
gonna give you
rebrand.
I'm going to give you a couple episodes until you get that one wrong. I feel like you're gonna call it Last Stand Media.
Right.
You get me a little bit of that.
I think the hardest thing is that since it was CLS for so long, and now it's like, I don't know whether LSM is like the new CLS, because I don't know if I think just Last Stand that's what I would ideally have it be. It's just Last Stand. But a lot of people have picked up on calling it Last Stand Media as well, which it's like,
yeah, I was impressed. For those who don't know, myself and Karak have launched a new show in tandem with Last Stand Media, Colin Moriarty's company. It's called Defining Duke. It's an Xbox podcast. We're doing that each and every single week. And so if you want more of us, that is a place to go, where we're going to focus on Xbox and PC information entirely. We have a Game Pass Pick of the Week section. Like I said, news. We do Patron Questions from the Last Stand Media Patreon. We're really excited about it. It's been in development for a while. So to finally unveil it and see how many people were truly excited, we want to thank a lot of people here who listen, because there's a lot of crossover between us three. Between ACG, my channel, and Colin's audience, there's a lot there. And so I think this podcast is kind of at the core of that, right? Because we all come from three different areas together to do this show. And so I think that represents that strongly. And so if you want more of that, please go ahead, give it a listen. It's over on the Last Stand Media YouTube channel, as well as all free feeds that you can listen to. Give us your feedback, your criticism. And Dustin, yes, I'd like to shout you out once more, as Colin did online, because you were definitely the hidden force behind the scenes, really pushing the changes and the ideas, and definitely for sure fighting for me to get, not that Colin had an issue, but like to get the Xbox podcast rolling, because we had a lot of ideas that we were toying with, and you kind of championed all of that. So as I've said with our show, you lay your hands on something, you make it better. So bravo to you once more. You've done an excellent job.
Well,
and
thank
you.
you.
All the credit in the world.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm happy that like we were able to create this synergy of like so many people, like you were saying, there's so many crossover fans, and we knew there were crossover fans for you, Matty, and Colin, and I knew there were crossover fans for Karak as well. But I think the most surprising thing is that some people are really like, this is the dream come true of having these three brands together in some fashion. So as your producer for the Xbox show, which to be clear for everybody, if you're worried that it's going to be too much like H.A.M, I'm not on the Xbox show. This is a Matty and Karak joint, but I'm in the shadows producing. So I'm just happy to bring the right people together to make awesome stuff. And so
hell yeah.
Yeah, and the reaction has already been insanely positive, and it's cool. I don't want to wax poetic too much about this, but it's exciting for me because I feel like there's so much opportunity in that Xbox space to do a super high quality focused podcast that isn't just, fanboys jerking around. That wasn't quite as good as Karak's from the last episode of the.
Oh yeah. Everyone loved that shit, Karak. That episode where you were losing your mind and just like making gestures and all types of things. That was
no such thing occurred.
Yeah, of course. It's in the past, right? The video suddenly got privated.
Right.
Yeah, but we had a good time that episode. And so, yeah, if you want more of us, long story short, search up Defining Duke. If you want early access to that, you can sign up to Colin's Patreon, which is Last Stand Media. But if you want to support this show, you're just into this show strictly, you can head over to my Patreon MrMattyPlays. And over there, we offer early access to this show. Early access goes live on Friday nights, and then it goes live to everyone on free feeds and whatnot on Sundays. So if you want to support this, get a bonus show. We do an extra slice of ham that's returning this coming Wednesday, because we did take a little bit of a break from that type of stuff for the holidays. While we were away, we had the history of pandemic kind of documentary recordings I did. I repurposed the project and did a podcast episode with it. A lot of people really liked it, so that was cool to see. Something that we'll keep our eyes open for in the future for bonus shows and whatnot to offer you all. But anyway, this show is based entirely around just general gaming discussions and hot takes and all that shit. We all like to wear glasses here as Karak puts his shades on. And so,
my eyes are killing me.
No, I get it, dude. I was telling my girlfriend, I was like, I'm having like really bad eye strain lately. And so,
Yeah.
I didn't want to hit Defining Duke too hard with the double shades show like we tend to do.
It may have to happen, man.
But you know, now now that we're comfortable after one single episode, I might have to, because we're gonna be looking at screens a fuck ton more. But over here, it's just a very relaxed kind of chatter. We fuel the show with your questions. We have a whole section dedicated to that. But as always, we like to open up the show with what we're up to and what we're playing. Gentlemen, it's been a couple weeks since we've all really convened for something like this. We've talked, of course, on and off since the holiday episode. But for now, whoever wants to go first, what have you been playing and what have you been doing?
Go ahead, Dustin, since Maddie and I did Wednesdays.
Okay.
Sure.
So first of all, I have to show off this shirt that my wife Holly got me for Christmas. It is Tomba, which Maddie is so ignorant that he doesn't even know what that is. So I got the Tomba shirt, and of course,
so this is what it looks like. Okay.
For the Last Stand Discord members out there, she also got me this cup, which says "I am the Weeb King" on it, and it has a picture of me as a baby with a Burger King hat. And then she also went as far as to put this quote from Hayao Miyazaki that says "Anime was a mistake" on it.
Did he actually say that?
Yes.
Is that?
He actually, which he was referring to the fact that like anime now in modern day has been so like, you know,
soulless,
so many tropes, and it's so unoriginal compared to when
I can kind of agree with that. These last couple of weeks we've had off. I haven't had to work, so I've just upped my anime intake, and I'm starting to notice a real overlap in some of the shit that people are calling high quality. And so I kind of agree.
So what's ironic is that I'm not like, I'm the self-declared weeb king, but I'm really like nowhere near the weebiest of them all. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, well, I'm the guy that can bring you all together. You know what I mean? I may not be the strongest, but I can lead you to greatness. Right. Yeah. So it's very stupid, but it's fun. I'll go down and my wife will be watching anime. I'll be like, so do you have any recommendations of an anime that's about a bunch of high school kids? I really like anime about high school kids. And there's so few of them. So it's just, so yeah. But other than that, Christmas was good. I got Crash 4. It's about time, which my dad came in clutch because I was totally joking with my family. I was like, yeah, no one gets me video games anymore and rightfully so, because I just buy all the games that I want when they come out.
Yeah, right.
and then I was like, oh, but maybe if I get a gift card, I'll buy Crash. And I was totally not fishing or anything. Right. And then my dad went and got me Crash. It was the first time I've gotten a video game since like I was in high school. So I've been playing a little bit of that. And it sucks. I really have barely played any games just because, as you were saying, we were doing this rebrand. It's kept me up.
Certainly, you've been more than us.
Yeah, it's kept me up many nights, and so I've still been like playing Cyberpunk here and there, and doing that kind of stuff. But I just did that. Okay, it's probably a spoiler. I'll save it to talk to you privately. But I just did a really cool mission that was with a character that I really like named Judy, and I'm a big Judy fan. In fact, I think I'm a Judy. Judy is my waifu. If this was an anime game,
See, I'm on the side of the fence where I am gonna marry Takamura of all people because everyone's fawning over Panam, a great character, and Judy, another great character. But I feel like because Takamura is not romantable, no one's just fawning over the man who has the best backstory in the game.
Oh,
I mean.
Dude, I still know so little about him because of the way I'm playing the game. I'm just like,
Okay.
I'm really not done a lot of the story stuff. I don't know. I don't want to get into a whole Cyberpunk conversation because people are probably. I mean, we're going to talk about Cyberpunk news, like related to actual stuff, but I'm just surprised that like a lot of people haven't talked about. I feel like some of the backstories of these characters and some of their character-based missions are actually really good. Like I'm really enjoying that aspect of it.
It's really just the kind of Fallout. I call it the Fallout 76 debacle, where you just had boom, boom, boom,
sure,
like problem after problem, and it just anytime there was an opening for that conversation to be had, it kind of got understandably so snuffed out. So yeah, that's a game I've wanted to go back to. I've been switching between a lot of games personally, but Cyberpunk's one that I well and truly miss, even though I only played it about a month ago at this point in time. But I put like 65 hours in, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna start to toy with other stuff, and I'm planning on getting back into it as we wait for that new patch to drop.
Now, Matty, one other thing I have to say, and then I want to kick it to Karak, but since I know the free feed, the YouTube fans, they're so anxious to call us fanboys, they can just go ahead and call me a fanboy for this PlayStation. Actually, I'm one of the fans that Karak was talking about the last episode with the big dicks. No, but my mom got me this beautiful neon sign because I was saying like, oh man, it would be cool to get a neon sign in here. That's what she got me.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you say I'm a fanboy, fuck you. Okay. You're disrespecting my mom's gift to me. How dare you? So,
Karak, what about you? What have you been playing and what have you been up to? I mean, I kind of know what you've been up to, but not everyone knows you as well as I do. I mean that in the least creepy way possible.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, sorry, you've already skipped out on that. It's already incredibly creepy. Like it's moved to that already. I overall mostly Hitman because I wanted to sort of check it out and play a bunch of it just in case, like how review code was being handled. And if you get it or whatever, this preview code came with all the levels, which was cool. And sort of makes sense for that game, I guess. But it was nice to sort of play that and do the preview. Today we had probably, I think maybe one of the more successful podcasts we've ever had for the International, which was awesome. It was unfortunate because one of the main guys couldn't come. He has and he talks about this, but he's got a physical, like a disease that like sitting for too long is painful. So like he hasn't been able to show up for like the last 3 big ones. And so we always tease him and we're like, thank God you weren't here, man. We had an amazing podcast. But we did. We had a phenomenal podcast. It was I think we got like 150 subscribers. Like it was ridiculous.
Good shit.
And that was a blast to do because it's been a while because I really haven't wanted to engage with like video gamers too much. Just sort of step back and do my own shit because I haven't even done much in my Discord. I went into Last Stand Discord and yours and occasionally, but I really haven't done much of that. Then I jumped to doing the D&D podcast, tabletop. I call it D&D, but tabletop podcast. And I did that because a friend asked me because they said that it was the most toxic community that they'd ever experienced was tabletop/D&D. And they were like, I know you won't have an issue if these people are toxic and I want you to talk about some of the stuff. And I was like, it can't be that fucking bad. Man, it's worse. It's tabletop / role playing, dude. If you say a group is toxic, you're banned.
Oh,
if you say you guys are being mean, banned. If you argue about rules, banned. I've had creators of D&D games block me on Twitter because I asked about something. It is to say video games have a discourse that can be uncomfortable is absolutely true. I don't even like the word toxic, but we can use it. To say this is 10,000 times worse would be such an understatement. Imagine if every creator of video games was like every creator of YouTube channels, was like every shitty fan all combined. That's what you deal with. And it's weird because, like I said, I was asked to make a video and talk about these things and talk about games in a place that was like safe for people, that was like a little bit more comfortable because a lot of people were having issues in various forums and stuff. And like I said, I was like, there's no chance it's this bad. And dude, it's almost been cool because it's reminded me that while video gamers can appear like a bunch of jackasses, man, we got trumped. And I don't mean that in the political way. They're way worse. It was and by the way, also many amazing people. I'm just saying that the discourse and the reaction is bad. So it's been phenomenal to do that because I love D&D. In fact, I would say it's like Airsoft, D&D, video games, and they switch places for like what I like the most. And so doing a podcast and we've got some visitors coming on. It's really exciting to do something that's analog because I like touching shit. I don't know any other way to say it. I like physical stuff, man. I showed you those miniatures I have. I've got my Skylanders here. There's something sometimes about having something in your hand and moving it on a table versus even if you have a free version of the digital game. Sometimes I'm like, it's not the same, man. So
absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a lot when I told you about
the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff,
card
right?
games. Yu-Gi-Oh or Dragon Ball. I like, they have digital versions of these games, but for me, they just never mentally click. Like I tend to misplay a lot because it's different when I have the whole set of cards in my hands. Like I'm just a way better player that way, and I enjoy it far more. I think it's just because it's an actual mental disconnect from something I spend probably like 60% of my life doing, which is all digital, so it's definitely like a disruption, and I think that's half the appeal for people like us who are on camera, on screen most of the time.
Are you guys
then lastly, I just want to say one game real quick, and then we'll jump. Space. Fuck, I knew I was going to mess it up. I've never got this game name right. Space Traders Frontiers. Star Traders Frontiers.
Okay.
Hang on. There is a game that is so good. Traders. Wow. Yeah, Star Traders Frontier. So two brothers, the Tressé brothers, originally started on Android and made these games. And they're like, imagine Darkest Dungeon mixed with like a 4X space game. Mixed with the movie Dune. And these two brothers have made a couple, and their most recent one is called Frontiers, and it's on Android, it's on PC, on Steam. It is unfortunately not on Switch. But if you ask me like what would be one of my top games, I would say it's in the top 5. And it's probably 3 or 4 years old, but when I mean top 5 I mean in 2020 and in 2021. Dude, I have like 600 hours in this fucking thing.
I'm looking right now.
I don't like Android games, by the way, just so everybody knows. Like it's lit my fire. Like I cannot stop playing it.
I'm looking right now. It does look a lot like Darkest Dungeon. What's interesting is I was just thinking about the sequel and how I really want it. Like I want the sequel for Darkest Dungeon.
Dungeon.
Yeah, just because I don't know why. I must be just a masochist because that game I was fucking terrible at. Like I was just not good. Yeah, I'm seeing it now. It's like a 4X. This is crazy.
Dude,
it's very different.
And by the way, best HUD ever in a game. Ever.
Yeah.
Of any game
clean
in the world. This is the only game I've ever seen that not only you have 25, 30, 50, 100 different people who are on your battleship, your space battleship. Whenever you upgrade a character, skills, abilities, whatever, when you look to upgrade them, it tells you every single character that's got that skill, every single character and what their level in that skill is, as well as what your level in the skill is. And then every time you travel in the game world, it rolls dice to see if something weird happens. So you might go between 2 star systems, and as you go for each turn, it'll be like nothing, nothing, nothing. And then it'll be like, okay, there was a fire in the engine room, but Joe Bob and Billy and Kendra were all have a +4 to like put out fires. And you can read this thing as it goes on, and those affect you. And they affect you completely separately from the main game. They're just a flavor situation, but it tells you every single thing ever. So there's no place in that game that you will ever need to go anywhere else. And I can't tell you, I don't even think there's a single PC game I can say that, where I'll go to buy a skill and I'll be like, what skill? Who has this skill? Does somebody else have this skill? Does somebody else have this weapon? Where's this character? And I'll have to go to somebody else's screen. And this is the first game, like I DM'd them and I was just like, dude, like you don't know me, but your shit's awesome. You need to work for every PC company and every console company in the world making like UIs. It's phenomenal. Maybe one of the reasons why I like it so much.
Yeah, it's interesting. It came out in 2018 and they're working on a game now called Cyber Knights Flashpoint.
Like XCOM a little bit.
Yeah, it's very XCOM. It's very much XCOM inspired. Yeah, I'm looking right now.
I wasn't sure if I'd like that, but I got to tell you that, man, like
it doesn't look as strong, if I'm honest.
Yeah. But anyway, this game, I've like filled my Discord. I think I talked about it in Colin's Discord as well. Like I can't get enough of it. Anyway, that's it for me.
Dustin, you were about to say something.
Oh, trying to remember what it was. Oh, I was going to add to the conversation talking about physical stuff, because I was going to ask you guys if you liked building, whether it's a lot of people like Legos. I respect it. I once liked Legos, but I can't. Now that I've got into model kits, they're so much more satisfying than Legos to me. So, yeah. But it is nice that tactile.
Model kits for like Warhammer 40,000, or are you talking MiGs and F-16 models?
I'm talking like Gundams and Star Wars.
Okay.
So
sure,
like the Bandai kits. So
yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like I went really hard on model kits like around a year ago now, and then I kind of dropped it for a little bit because it's very time consuming. Exactly. But as you were saying, like everything we do is so digital. We're always looking at screens, and then like it's nice to just like take little scissors and cut pieces out, and then you know what I mean, like
with your razor blade for an hour trying to get the little, what's that called, flash, trying to get the flash off of one little edge.
I always call it crispy, good. Like a crisp. I don't know why I call it that, but I'm like, oh, I got this crisp here. You just gotta. So
it's why I like to read personally. That's usually my go-to when I'm trying to break off, whether it's like simple like manga and comics, which is admittedly still kind of eye poppy to the same degree as games for me at times, but more normal books, of course. So yeah, that's why sometimes the Kindle is so helpful, because it's just everything in one little tablet, but it's a tablet. Sometimes I like to hold the physical thing. So,
dude,
there's studies, by the way. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say there's studies that prove for sure that people learn differently on a tablet versus a book. Like, I definitely retain. I buy physical books all the time. Like, I have way too many. We have to donate them, but I'm like, dude, I won't remember shit if it's a or I'll have to go, don't talk to me. Where with a book, man, there's something about turning a page and your brain is like, this next page matters.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. That's the only way I can describe it.
There is, I can't cite it. And this was a while ago, but during some course I took, there was scientific studies done that like your brain reads things differently from a screen. You're like naturally trained to skim and like pick out keywords on a lit screen. And so,
makes sense.
Kindle. But Matty, you held up that manga. I've been really thinking about, they have an Akira box set of all the manga.
Oh yeah.
It's $150 though. That's the problem, is that manga is so expensive to own.
I go in bursts, right? This is Slam Dunk. I got 2 volumes here. We'll go through those 2 over time, and then after that, we'll dive into the next volume. Right now, I'm really liking it. It's kind of cool. So
nice.
That, and I've also been reading right underneath it here. This was sent to me, by the way, so just everyone keep that in mind for any positive things I say. But I was sent this Divinity Original Sin 2 Godwoken. It's called the Collector's Edition. It's a comic book, but it's like a novel. It's like 300 pages. I'm about halfway through it, and it's awesome because it pretty much takes, for those who have never played Divinity Original Sin 2, the game starts in this place called Fort Joy. You have these people who use this type of magic called Source. And so the Source, I forgot the name of them, but the Magisters are capturing people who are using Source because they feel they cannot be controlled. And so you sort of understand their reasoning, but there are your own characters you can make, and then there's 6 intro characters that can join your party if you're playing by yourself, or you can play their origin story, they call it. And so what this book does is builds their backstory to what brings them to Fort Joy. So it's really cool. And for those who don't know, I think Divinity Original Sin 2 is like the best RPG of the PS4 and Xbox One generation. So getting more of that, of course, I'm a huge fan of it. But Larian did send this to me, so I'd like to make that clear. But it's right up my alley. So that's what I've been reading. Gaming-wise, I've been doing a lot of that. Because I've been sick. For those who don't know, I had COVID. I did all I could. Still got it.
What a shitter.
Yeah.
How's your family doing? Also, by the way, you had said that there was other people involved. Is everyone doing okay?
We're fine. My dad got it which that was the scariest part because he was a high risk person. You know, he's got diabetes, he's overweight, and, you know, he's got breathing issues. So we were like, oh, fuck. You know, like immediately when I started getting sick, I just kind of sat in my room. But, you know, he still got it. And by the way, it wasn't, I want to make it clear to the audience, you know, because I feel like it's almost like hard to admit when you get it, but it wasn't because of any lack of care. Like, it's not like we went out or did something. We actually opened our house to one of our, you know, my girlfriend and my brother's girlfriend, and one of them had carried it into the house. And so, you know, it was from like a hairdresser who literally was quarantining. And so it somehow chained its way in. But it wasn't like any lack of caring. You know, I'm very much for the masks and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah, my dad got it. Fortunately, it wasn't severe. You know, he's been sick, but it was not like anything that sent him to the hospital or he had breathing issues, because we were making sure, like, you take the baby aspirin, sleep on your stomach or your side at the minimum. All of those precautions were taken, and my brother got it, and pretty much we all had the same symptoms. Like, for me, I had like really fucking painful sinuses. Like, it felt, I would wake up, because at first I didn't know, but I was sleeping on my back. I would wake up and my head, it would feel like someone hit it with a baseball bat. It fucking, like, this was a painful sickness, and I had like no energy. And so for a while I was just laid up watching anime, and it was significant when I could sit in my chair and like play a game. But yeah, fortunately everyone's okay. My mom, she stayed negative. So, you know, our quarantine is done on the 10th, and we've just been, whenever I leave my room, I just put on mask and gloves. When I go to the bathroom, I wipe shit down. So that's been the toughest part. It's not even being sick. It's like the mental, like, I can't just wake up and go take a piss, honestly. Like, I got to wake up, put the mask on, put your gloves on, hold it in. I'm like, fuck, I got to go. And then go to the bathroom when you're done, take the Lysol wipes, wipe everything down from the handles to the faucets to the countertop, doorknobs, all that shit. So yeah, that is, you know, it has led to me having a lot of time to just sit in my room and play games once I started to feel better and turn the corner, which has been kind of nice in a weird way. I always said that, I said it to my girlfriend, you know, I love what I do, but I definitely needed a period of time where I could just, you know, disconnect from work. I had videos scheduled. Fortunately, I did. Otherwise, I would have been really fucked. But just that time to sit, play, and just catch up on games and bounce from games. So, like, I fired up the PS2. I bounced between like 3 different games. And then I went to my DS. I played Episode 3 on there. Star Wars Episode 3, by the way, one of the best side-scrollers of all time. But the main game that I played was the Somnium Files on my PS5. And
Tell me, Matty.
I was gonna say, Dustin, I
People
saw your
always recommend this to me.
Yeah,
but...
you would like it. You would like it. It's
okay.
it's in that it's from the yeah, I know, right? It's not anything surprising, but you would like it. It took me about 32 hours to complete. It's a story about a cop who has this unique AI eyeball called Iba, and it's like his partner. And so there's been this murder of this little girl's mother in this park. And so all I'm going to say, without spoiling anything, because as the story progresses, you realize even things happening in the first like hour or two matter in the last hours as well. So nothing's like a spare detail. All I'll say is the way this game builds up, you know, it's not like a Danganronpa where there's multiple murders. It's one murder, and then the case progresses from there. It is like a Zero Escape where you have branching paths, sort of, and you can hop between those and see all the endings of the routes, which I did, and you need to get the final true ending. But once it all comes together, I was like, how did... I told, you know, obviously I've been talking to my girlfriend a shit ton, you can tell. I told her, I was like, how did someone come up with this shit? Like, it was almost discouraging when I finished the story, because I was like mind blown that even if it was a group of people who sat down and went, let's do this story idea. And those who have played it will know I'm talking about just the way they handle it. And by that, I mean like the murderer, how it came together, how it plays into the universe. It's just like, what? So highly recommended. Really good. Had me gripped. Great soundtrack too.
Matty, I have to say, what's interesting to me about this situation is obviously having COVID, being sick, not good, especially with your family involved, you know, negative situation. But okay, might be being a little cheesy here, guys, but one thing I do love about video games is that it has this like it gives a redeeming quality to a bad time. Like specifically,
That's really well said. Yeah.
I was thinking of when Bloodborne came out, like either a week after or right within the 2-week window of it came out. I was like horribly sick, like the sickest I had been in years. And so I had like 3 or 4 days where I could barely, like, I was just good enough that I could play, but I was like, couldn't do anything. And it's like, obviously it was horrible at the, like, I felt awful, but now years later, I look back at that time as like a really positive experience because I was like,
I was gonna say
I fully was able to immerse myself into Bloodborne, and it just made that miserable time actually kind of awesome. Looking back, you know what I mean? Like I'm focused only on the good stuff now. So I don't know if this is quite to that level, but
here's the thing: is you're definitely right, because at the end of the day, this sucked, but fortunately, we were very lucky, right? Like no one got so sick that we had to like really worry. It was just about, okay, we got to wait this out. So it did become a thing of like, well, what do I do now? And so from there, man, I mean, yeah, I think I'll always fondly remember that, because what happened was, I was so sick that for me, it was playing involved games that demanded like reactions and quickness, me to be attentive. That's why I was playing PS2 games, because, they're very, like I was playing Champions and Norath, like a very simple beat 'em up with loot, a Diablo light, back in its kind of origins. And so that and which is a visual novel, like you just click A, you pick conversation options, like very simple. But because I love visual novels, like the storytelling there was so good that it kept me gripped. But yeah, I'll always remember that because, every Christmas my mom has this kind of running theme where she'll fill our stockings with like tons of treats and snacks. And it just came in clutch because I couldn't leave my room. So I just had all these fucking snacks just piled up next to me. I'm laying in bed right behind me. My feet are up. I got my TV out on an angle facing me, and I'm playing the Somnium Files for literally I played it like 6 hours a day. And I beat it in less than a week, and that was it. And I was just like, damn, that was actually a really good time. So yeah, I think I will end up fondly remembering the relaxation. Yes, that aspect. Yeah, for sure. Like I already could feel that. After that, sorry, I don't mean to keep going on, just I've had so much time to play in between our last show, which involved us three, and now I decided to make the call, right? We got a couple of games coming out this month I got my eyes on. We got Hitman 3, and we've got The Medium. I'd like to review both these games. We'll see how that plays out. So as it stands right now, I'm like, this month is pretty dead in the scheme of things, especially if I don't get review copies. So I have made the decision. I started up Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Yes.
I did it.
Yes.
I finally started it.
Thank you.
Funny how you mentioned, I didn't want to interrupt your story, but my mom had got me that for Christmas, which was really nice, because I'd been wanting it for a while, and I was like, I don't know when. I was like, this is the year, I feel. And indeed it is. So I'm about 5 hours in, and I like it. I don't love it. I like it. Here's the thing. I liked Fire Emblem. I'm not like this person who's like, who can I ship? Like, I'm not like that. I'm not wired that way. What I liked about Fire Emblem, though, was making the relationships, because you create your own super army. Like, this person may be good at, riding horses with archery, and this person may be a mage. Now I'm going to make a mage that can do all three of those together. Or like a person who can ride a horse and use a bow and arrow and be a mage, and they're like super powerful because it's their kid. You don't really have that in Three Houses, as far as I'm aware. And that was like my favorite mechanic, not because of the shipping, but more so like the creation of characters and how like well thought they thought out they are, and how they all have their own backstories. I really, really dug that. In this game, they kind of just copy a lot of things from Persona, except instead of the student, you're the professor. So it's got its own set of mechanics. I'm enjoying it though. I'm not as head over heels as I was with like Fire Emblem Awakening or the Fate series. I think those games had a special kind of DNA to them that they changed a lot to, I think, appeal to a broader audience. And in a lot of ways it's working, but if you've played Persona, I feel like this is just overly familiar. So I'm digging it enough that I'm pretty confident I'm going to finish it. I went with Blue Lions, and so I will likely talk about this for multiple episodes in the future, so I'll spare everyone for now. We can move on into the news if there's nothing else.
Matt, I have to tell you, I have to add a quick, very short story because this is relevant. It happened in the last 24 hours. Last night, I was having some render issues with Sacred Symbols. And so this is actually the second night. 2 nights in a row, I was up till 4 a.m. because of render issues. So thank you, Adobe Premiere.
I saw when you messaged us that we were like one of the top shows on, I think it was Apple, for Defining Duke.
Yeah.
I saw the time. It was like 4 a.m. and I'm like, usually I'm up till then. Dustin, though, he said he was in bed relatively earlier than that.
So anyway, but in my tired delusion last night, because it was the second night in the row, at like 3 a.m, I was just like sitting in this chair like this, and I was like, something made me think of the Fire Emblem Three Houses theme song, the one with vocals that plays at the beginning. And so I was just like sitting here like listening to the theme song on my phone, just like, God, please do not error out, just listening to that song. That song is lit, by the way. Like really good shit. But
I love the battle music. That's kind of what's hyped me up. Is I think it's so fire. So yeah, I think I'm gonna start to like it over time because I do enjoy its mechanics, kind of the instructing, and if I always had a game idea in mind that I want to pursue one day, and it did kind of have some elements from this game involved. It's just kind of cool to see that playing out because then I'm critiquing my own ideas at the same time. So. Yeah, it's an awesome game. Ultimately, just I'm not
careful.
as in love with it.
This game will take you places and some twists and turns. So it's not a game you would expect to have some crazy shit. So just be careful as you're navigating the interwebs.
That's what I'm excited about because I right now I'm starting to notice my storytelling patience is wearing thin. Like I've been watching Jujutsu Kaisen on Crunchyroll, which is an anime that's become really popular. Everyone's freaking out about it, but its storytelling is so fucking average. It's so mediocre. It's so mid. It's all over the place. And I'm just like, this is such an entertaining to watch show from an action and animation standpoint, but I could go fire up like the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie or something. Like, I don't know. I've noticed I need a game to value my time in storytelling, not just like Fire Emblem's even kind of doing it. We're 5 hours in and I'm like, what is the story here? What is happening? Because there really isn't. It's just you're the professor, the Knights of Saros, kill some bandits, kill some thieves, and like you see a villain looking character once. So I just hope games start to pick it up a little bit. Doesn't mean that they have to be shorter. I'm not on that side of the fence yet. Just they need to get to the point a little quicker, and then if that ends up making the game shorter, then sorry, your story should have been shorter in the first place.
That's funny because that's how I feel about your favorite anime, unfortunately, Maddie.
Which one is that? I have a lot of favorites.
Promise Neverland.
What?
I'm like,
that
dude,
show takes one episode.
The beginning was awesome, and now I need to go back to it because I am intrigued enough that I want to see it through. But I'm like,
season 2.
The drip feed is in these middle episodes, just a little.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Once they reveal things, then it picks back up. But I think that, you're right. They do lean a little heavily on the first episode, for sure. All right. With that, let's get into the news for the week. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, we got to headline this with CD Projekt Red because I think this is pretty prevalent. And outside of everything that's really come out this week, in the scheme of things, this is a slower news week. I want people to know that right off the bat before we continue on, which is why we just wanted to really play into what our show's strength is, which I think is banter. But anyway, there was a Reddit thread that came out 5 days ago, and I'm not going to name names, but a fuck ton of YouTubers gave a lot of credibility to this thread. It got 6.3K upvotes. It says, alleged CD Projekt Red dev talks about the state of Cyberpunk 2077 and future plans. And in this thread, it says that CD Projekt Red was looking for a No Man's Sky type of bounce back in June 2021, that they are severely down in morale, that there's going to be major exits in development positions. The code for the PS4 and Xbox One versions getting scrapped. Yada yada yada. It's a hunk of bullshit. When I was reading it, I was like, I'm sorry, but like this is coming from a guy who loves speculation. I didn't believe a single thing of this. I didn't even pay it any kind of attention. Anyway, though, this whole Reddit thread comes out, And it was so much attention that CD Projekt Red broke their silence. Their last tweet publicly was December 23rd with a hot fix. And they posted a tweet saying, "Normally we don't comment on rumors, but this time we wanted to make an exception as this story is simply not true." Now, I know CD Projekt Red has done a lot to burn goodwill and trust, but I think this was the smart decision to get out and cut this story off before it really did continue to spiral out of control. The issue is going to be now a lot of people are expecting this and probably have not seen the tweet from CD Projekt Red. So, gentlemen, I don't want to say what do you make of this. That tends to be my go-to line, but there have been, we're in that phase now, right? We had that burst of problems with Cyberpunk 2077. Now we're in that phase where we're going to see fake bullshit until their first patch. This was kind of the first round of it. What do you make really of actually CD Projekt Red's response, the rumors itself, and what they may actually end up doing to respond to the qualms people have? We know there's 2 major patches coming, one January, one February, but what is your interpretation of this series of events? Whoever would like to begin.
Go ahead.
Karak, you've been quiet. I'm gonna put on Karak, actually. You've been fucking quiet over there. Hell yeah.
I mean, they use boilerplate language for a lot of that rumor, including the a bug is being prepared to fix every issue. So that's why I knew it was a lie, because that's like, I mean, it's boilerplate. They could have used it, but I don't think a dev would have stated that. As in, the dev who was supposedly talking wouldn't have stated that, because that doesn't actually make sense to what they were stating, which was that there were issues behind the scenes. So there's a lot of back and forth. Who knows what it is? I don't care at all. Like, I didn't notice this other than going, oh, somebody's talking about the game again. Yeah. So I don't really have much to add. I didn't put a lot of stock into all of it. Some parts might actually have come from guesswork, and some parts might come from like some friend of a friend, but who knows, right? I didn't really realize people took it serious, but I'm assuming the upvotes was probably like Reddit. Is that what?
Yeah, it's on Reddit. 6.3K upvotes. And I think, I got to be honest,
I usually notice anything, them for upvotes wise. I'll notice the news, but I won't usually see that.
Yeah, it's just right here. I see it on my tablet. It's more so, I got to say, man, like, I'll be the first to admit I've covered my share of Reddit threads, but I think there's a sense of being honest and upfront and saying, like, hey, this could be something not true, take it with a grain of salt. And I think there are times where most threads I've covered have usually been backed up by like some source coming out and saying like, hey, I believe this. So there's at least something there to fall back on. But this is one of those things where it was just a write-up of shit people wanted to hear and wanted to see in the game. And so because of that, it got, 6.3K upvotes is no joke. And especially when it's being put out in a ton of content online, there's got to be some sense of responsibility there. Because here's the thing. Here's how I look at it. As someone who had a ton of content scheduled and has been dabbling in and out of the gaming news as predominantly a RPG news YouTuber, this is a situation where I think the news was dry, people were bored, and they made something happen. That's how I look at it. Would you agree with that, Dustin?
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to say, is that...
Well, fuck, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I that's good, because it means we're thinking on the same plane as for this. Basically, to me, it's like Cyberpunk news was so in demand a month ago. Like, and
sure
the three of us know this, because anything that you put Cyberpunk in the title is instantly going to do better, And I think that there are, I think some people will be upset that it's like, oh, you're naming another thing Cyberpunk, and it's like, what are we supposed to do? Like, if we're talking about
I mean,
and it's in
I'm
demand.
looking at the rest of our news. It's nothing else is really attractive in the sense of us headlining our show based off what we're known for.
Right. And the thing is, like, to be clear, is that there is like talking about legitimate things, and if it's in demand and it's worth talking about, that makes sense, right? But Maddie, as you said, there were a lot of people that gave attention to this and got rewarded for it because of the demand. So I think it's in the hands of the creator to have discretion. I mean, this goes beyond gaming news, right? You see some shit that pops up on mainstream news that you're like, how is this news? Like, it's just, I don't know, like, especially now with so many people, like the hate cycle of like people love to hate things. And if you can do that effectively and get people interested or outraged, then that you will get rewarded for that because people desire that feeling. So yeah, I'm not saying there was some kind of grand conspiracy where someone was like, having some Cyberpunk news will get me more views and more clicks, so I'm going to make up a fake story. I think that just like, there was a void. Some idiot just was like, oh, I can do this. And then YouTubers maybe even knowingly took the bait in some situations. And I don't know. It's messy.
Yeah, and like I get it. Yeah, I'll be the first to call myself out and say like I made a shit ton of Cyberpunk videos. I mean, I'm an RPG guy, and it's the biggest RPG of the year. But I don't know. I think I was prepared. Like when I took this vacation for myself, I was mentally prepared because CD Projekt Red had said, "Hey, at some point in January, we're going to be doing this patch, and it's going to be significant." And I was like, "Okay, at some point, I might get pulled out of my vacation and have to do this." And so I kept, a close enough tab, like not like I was directly on top of everything, but I tried to keep a close enough tab on everything that was happening in the games industry while I was away. And when I saw this, like, I thought for a second, like, I totally understand the asking of the question. It's how you respond, right? Like I saw this and I go, okay, is this something I need to make a video on? And I see a couple other YouTubers doing it. And I'm like, I read it again. I'm like, this doesn't look right. And other than my own intuition, it's not like I could have made a video being like, don't believe this because, what if in some other world it ended up being true? But I'll be the first to say, yeah, there is a demand for Cyberpunk. I'm well aware of that. I do think there's also responsibility in that reporting. And, yeah, they said they were going away for the holidays and they'd be back with their patch. I think right now they're embracing that silence. There's a bit of a lull for Cyberpunk that is good for them because when they come back, hopefully it'll start to set the stage for something a little more positive for them. Because, I've been called a hater for Cyberpunk for some reason.
Wait, hold on. People are saying that you're a hater. I thought that you were a Cyberpunk shill, Matty.
Well, that's the thing. I literally said I think it's one of the best like AAA level, at least on my experience on PC, AAA level RPGs I experienced in the gen compared to like, say, a Fallout 4 or an Outer Worlds or something. I thought it was up there. Even with The Witcher 3 in a lot of ways. And so that's just my opinion. But I can already tell where this situation is going to go as the patches progress and hopefully as this game gets better, where you can kind of recommend it a little easier to folks. I will start to earn that fanboy title. Fret not, Dustin. I will earn that. I will have it stamped on my forehead. People will be like, that's shill.
Dude,
but It never comes with ignoring everything that happened. That's why I didn't put in my top games of the year. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, this was a top game for me, but it was a top game in a very specific circumstance, like that most couldn't experience. So
yeah,
it's tough, man.
I don't know.
It's a tough conversation.
I'm speechless. Like I don't know what to say. It's just, it's frustrating, but it is what it is.
Certainly going to be more rumors as time goes on. We don't want to soak up too much of the show with CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk because I'm sure a lot of folks are fatigued on that. But this is the latest on the rumors, and I felt it was important for us to kind of establish our standpoint as definitely a podcast crew that's focused on this show a lot, and I've created a lot of content around it to kind of know where we draw the line in the sand on some of these rumors because you literally, there's like a Reddit game rumors thread, and you could just go in there and just have a field day with rumors all day long and be like, here's a new rumor. Just as long as they have some upvotes, that's almost like the hint of credibility you need because enough people have bought in. And I want to make sure, just for those listening, I'm not speaking in like a derogatory manner. I love speculation. I love rumors. I eat that shit up. All right. It's fun as fuck. A lot of like professionals in the industry like to go like, we don't like to comment on rumors and speculation. I like to a lot of the times, but it's got to be plausible enough. This simply wasn't. I think it's just what a lot of people wanted to hear. Just because some of the shit they were saying, there wasn't enough time for that turnaround that people are looking for. It'll likely be months before we really get what people are hoping for with this game. But anyway, that's the latest on Cyberpunk 2077. And now, we shift on over into another kind of sad situation. This is a game I was really looking forward to. I actually did one of my first ever in-person interviews for this game. Dying Light 2, the art director at Techland for Dying Light 2, has left the company after 22 years. Also a writer, by the way. So kind of significant here, especially when you have Chris Avellone, who was publicly fired. There has been another significant departure here for the long-delayed game. This article comes from GameInformer.com, where they have a little quote from the LinkedIn profile of his name is Paul Sellinger. After over 22 years, I decided to end my cooperation with Techland. I would like to express my gratitude to the company that has allowed me to develop and fulfill myself for half of my life. Techland, I will always be rooting for you, as well as the great people I have met thanks to you. I wish you, I wish you that Dying Light 2 and subsequent projects will become world hits. That is the end of the quote there. So we learned that development was really a mess for a while, and Techland even actually reached out to Game Informer with a statement saying, in connection with the information about the departure of Techland's art director, we would like to reassure all fans of the upcoming Dying Light 2 that the position of art director is not threatened and has been held by Eric Kakano since November 2019. Eric has been taking care of every aspect of the upcoming production ever since, and the team has, under his leadership, is doing their best to offer players the best game possible. Paul Sellinger, who has been the narration designer for the last 2 years, decided at the end of 2020 to end his cooperation with Techland and to pursue his further career elsewhere. So emphasis on that. He's not done yet. He is choosing to leave now, which I think can say a lot. Pal spent most of his professional life at Techland, and he, among others, take credit for the success of the series Call of Juarez. He left a very large piece of himself with Dying Light 2 as he worked on the project from the very beginning. His duties, i.e. the narrative department, were taken over by Pyotr Semanik in October of 2020. We'll be sharing exciting news about Dying Light 2 soon. All right, Karak, I would like to start off with you, my friend. The reason for that is you had a very interesting tweet. You said you can tell an animal's dying by the sound it makes, right? That was something along those lines of what you said on Twitter with this news. What do you think about Dying Light 2 suffering another major departure? This is never, right? People always say a game doesn't get worse when it gets delayed, but does a game ever get better with significant departures? I don't think we've ever seen a situation where we've seen these big names or these long-time standing employees leave a position mid-development, and it's always been like, okay, the game got better. And that even goes for something I'm looking forward to, like Halo Infinite. So what do you think of what's transpired here with Techland?
Yeah, I don't know that guy, strangely enough. Like, he never popped up in any of the news articles that I had seen for prior games. And I was a fan of Call of Juarez, which was the old shooter. I was a fan of those games, I guess you'd call them shitty Western games. I don't even really know what you'd call those games, but I enjoyed them.
Gunslinger was the kind of cell-shaded one, right? It was like $15.
There was and there was like Call of Juarez 2, and then there was I can't remember what the other one was, but I believe it was a third one, and it was like a storytelling game. Or you were telling a story via the main character, and he could, as he did his actions, you would change the story. Like you were an unreliable narrator, which I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Again,
interesting.
Yeah, but again, I never saw any of these, or I never saw this person's name, which doesn't mean anything. It's just I don't know anything about him. I do know that I don't like the term of ending cooperation, just because in English has a really weird connotation to it. Mm-hmm. But that's not their primary language, so I guess it makes sense. We would say, like, I've decided to go on to other things, and you'd read what you thought out of that. But this weird stuff is, I've decided to end my cooperation. What does that mean? Because I'm going to tell you, if I said that in a normal American business, people would be like, that means you were going to cooperate, but you're not. Like, cooperate with what? Which it sounds really negative. So I don't know. They're fucked. I don't really expect a Dying Light 2. And I'm not as big of a fan as a lot of other people, but with Chris having the issues he had, being pulled from it, and they're always trying. It seems like they're in such damage control now, all the time. It's like, oh, no worries. Chris left after we had everything figured out, and then it's like this guy, oh, no worries. We've had all this figured out since November. It's just, it feels like it's never coming out.
Yeah, it's something with these zombie games with the number or with the number
Yeah.
two, right? It's just
Right.
Dead
Yeah.
Island 2, Dying Light
Yeah.
2. It's just I'm
gonna
everyone
be
always
brutally
talks about
honest, too.
3, but
Much more interested in Dead Island 2. That's just me. I was it was jankier, wasn't as good of it wasn't as polished, but the stuff they showed from Dying, when did they show that now?
Dying Light 2 was about 2 years ago in the beginning of I want to say 2019. They had like 24
and they
minutes
showed
of
like
gameplay.
them changing a world event or whatever. Like you did something, it changed like the banner.
Yeah, that was Dying Light 2. Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff is looked cool, but that was it, and like they never showed anything else. So to me, this has dropped so far off my radar now that whenever I see news like this, I'm like, I expect it. Oh, I knew that was good. That's exact. I'll be right back. I got to take care of this.
No, you're good.
Yeah, sorry.
Go for it. What do you think of it?
So, I mean, this is a weird one for me. Like, obviously, I feel like where there's smoke, there's fire. And clearly there is something going on behind the scenes. There's some kind of internal turmoil at Techland. But what's interesting to me is that when people saw this game behind closed doors at E3 2019, very positive. Lots of game of the show, editor's choice. My pal Phil Nyman of handsomephantom.com gave it his editor's choice of E3 award. And so it's just a weird thing where it's like it was clearly far enough along that this behind closed doors demo was very impressive. But ever since then, it's only been bad news. So very conflicting feelings.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I went in E3 2018, it was E3 2018. I went, I did an interview and I saw behind closed doors, and what I saw, I was like, "Fuck, this game looks awesome," and
what are we talking about?
Dying Light, still Dying Light 2. Yep.
Okay, great.
Nope. And so, I saw this thing behind closed doors and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it totally deserved all the hype it was getting, and they kind of seemed to sustain that momentum at the right time with those 20 plus minutes of gameplay where I was a believer, man. But now, just the thing is when they delayed it in 2020, I think folks got to remember with this game, it wasn't just a normal, we're putting it off for a couple of months or we're figuring things out. It was a indefinite delay until they could figure shit out. And I don't know a single game project that has been like super repurposed or overhauled. If you need a recent example, there was definitely rumblings for a while of that happening to Cyberpunk. And the reason that rumbling is a little more believable is because people were going back to the 2018 demo that was shown, and you were seeing people talking about how something had happened to Johnny Silverhand a year prior in the game's story. But then when you get into Cyberpunk 2077, you're talking about how it was 50 years ago. So there were significant overhauls narrative-wise in that game, and that was within a 2-year window. So if you need
I got to ask a question about that, because maybe I'm missing something. How in the fuck do people not know there wasn't a single quest that had you go back to that time frame?
Well, I think part of it's really just because of the fact that with Cyberpunk, this was like right in the beginning of the game, so it was like established kind of lore more so than a quest that you were going to do. Or are you saying
how do people not know? There was this big hubbub. It's like, oh, the entire world has changed. There's been this huge rewrite. That nothing about showing a quest back in the time would have indicated there was an entire rewrite. That makes absolutely no sense. It's like we were talking about people going off the handle. Why were people freaking out about that? That there's nothing about that that's like brand new. Most movies trope that anyway. Like, why would people think that would indicate some huge change?
I feel like it's more so because this would be running off an assumption of my own. My assumption would be simply just due to the idea that if something is 50 years ago, you need to create what they did, which was like gameplay sections kind of representing those significant narrative moments. One of those significant moments was something involving the Arasaka Tower. And I feel like if that happens within the timeline of just a single year ago in Cyberpunk from 2018, I think it presents a whole different idea on how you approach that narrative. So that is literally just my 2 cents on it. It's clear something changed. Is more so what I was getting at. Does that mean it was significant or a big overhaul? I don't know if I said it was, but I think it more so.
I don't know if you did, but you did state other people did, and I was trying to figure out where they had.
Yeah,
like,
sorry. I just want to make sure I'm clean, right? But yeah, I'm just saying if you're looking for a game recently that definitely at least saw some type of reworking and repurposing, you just have to look no further than one of the more recent AAA games. And it does happen to some extent, but I think just people need to understand that there's a difference between something that's subtle and something major, like we're delaying this indefinitely until we can figure it out. And so they're kind of lost right now. Fingers crossed, though, because I am still interested in the game. There's plenty more to care about, though. That's kind of the camp I sit in. Like, you know, when it comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, I probably won't be disappointed anymore just because there's so much other cool shit that is coming that I'm like, I'll worry about that instead. All right. Speaking of games getting delays, this one I am looking very much forward to. Out of everything here on this list, this is probably the one I wanted to talk about the most, but I knew it wouldn't be a good thing to headline the show with because right now I don't think there's a significant demand for it. So Outriders, the looter shooter, third-person shooter, I previewed this back in, I want to say, August, has received a delay. They posted a little thing on their Twitter account. Happy New Year. We believe it is important that players get to experience a new IP like Outriders before release so that you can decide for yourselves whether the game is something you wish to pre-order, purchase, or play. For this reason, we're excited to announce that on February 25th, 2021, we will be publishing a free demo, giving everyone the chance to play the first few hours of the game with all 4 classes in both single player and co-op, along with the seamless migration of your character and progress to the full game. Speaking of which, we have decided to move the release date of Outriders to April 1st, 2021. In parentheses, they say it's no joke. We will spend this extra time fine-tuning the game and focusing on delivering a fantastic play experience at launch. Thanks for hanging tight a little longer. We appreciate your patience, the Outriders team. Now, when I played this game, I thought that there was a lot of kinks in the terms of its balancing. But what I played, I thought was really, really fun. And I'm very excited for this game. So it's been pushed back a little bit more, but in a month we're going to get a demo that will carry over your progress. I'd like to emphasize that, and that you can test out and replay and all of that stuff. This looks great to me. What do you make of another delay for Outriders to do some fine-tuning? Do you think, because when I don't know if you had a demo of this game at the same time I did or at all, but now there's been a huge window of time where there can be significant tweaking to gun damage, where enemies are placed, how levels play out. So for me, as someone who laid their hands on the game, this is good news because I said that it may need a delay because not technically it was functioning fine, but it was more so enemies kind of constantly running at you, the damage you would output onto enemies, that type of stuff. That needed to be reworked. And I think that this is the right amount of time for them to get that kind of right. So as people who haven't played the game, then what is your level of interest for Outriders?
Well, actually, Matty, this is a game that I did preview at a big event in 2020. One of the only at PAX East. So
there we go. Perfect.
Yeah,
so you got
one of the only events at PAX East, or you were one of the only people?
I just meant as far as like gamer events or whatever in 2020.
There was barely anybody at PAX East, and you were like one of the only people. I was like, damn.
No,
there were tons of people at PAX East.
There was a shocking amount of people, and then like less than 2 weeks after we got back is when lockdown began. So that's kind of shocking.
I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. So
life comes at you fast.
Oh man. It's so funny. It's so quaint now thinking back to like seeing the guys like spraying the escalator. Like they
were standing there with the wipes as like people would go down the escalators and
right. And there's just, good on him for trying, but we had no clue what was happening.
I thought they were doing the right thing because for a single PAX, I didn't get sick. I was like, wow, this is great. I feel pretty good.
Right.
Normally I get sick when I get home, but I didn't that time. So they did something right.
They did something right. But yeah, so I played this game for like 2 hours, I think, back in March. And it's honestly, I thought it had a surprising level of completeness feeling. Like it felt pretty solid in that state. I mean, which especially when you're playing games at PAX, you play some games that are very, very in development, we'll just say. So I really am intrigued and interested in seeing what this game, after over a year of polish, because it seemed to be in a very stable and semi-complete version back in March. I will say I thought this game was really fun. I was playing it with 2 other people at PAX, and the co-op experience was really great. I think its most negative aspect is that it is just on something about it feels generic, and I don't know if I can really put my finger on what. It just has like this sort of like Mass Effect, Destiny slash
you can see the inspirations on its sleeve, sort of.
Right, there's nothing about it that screams like this is Outriders. You know what I mean? Like there's no key defining visual aspect of it. But
yeah, I get that. I think for me, it just feels that Mass Effect 3 multiplayer void, because it feels and plays a lot like that, except much sharper and with a lot more diversity. And so for me, it definitely is scratching a particular itch. It's not like I was sitting there like, man, I need that Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, but it plays a lot like that, where except it's been cleaned up a lot more. And so if it's only getting cleaned up more, I'm very excited to see what that ends up being. This comes from People Can Fly, who did Bulletstorm. So the only real defining quality, and it's not a positive one for this game, is it's got atrocious writing, and it's just like very, it's very out there. It's very out there. Yeah, like just people yelling obscene shit in the middle of what's supposed to be like, it's presented to you as this is a serious cutscene to build our world, and then someone will yell like "fucking cocksucker," and you're like, it's like what the fuck's going on? You know, it's a very strange game in that way, and I think that's why, you know, all the attention leans on its gameplay, which is very familiar. I don't know how well this will do. That's the other thing I'm very curious about. You know, how many people will buy it, how well it'll perform. Will that demo give it a needed boost?
That's Maddie, something I want to touch on. Is that demo?
Go for it.
So I just think I love demos. I think demos are great. And to me, the fact that they're saying, hey, we have a multi-hour demo where you can play the beginning of the game, that's saying, hey, we're confident in this product. And I think you have to imagine, sorry to bring it up again, but there's some Cyberpunk was part of their conversation, first in the delay and in the demo, because they have to be thinking like, you know, there's maybe some people that bought a game just a few months ago that they feel like they got burned on. And so maybe they're going to be more hesitant, especially with a game from a developer that's not really well known. I mean, sure, Bulletstorm is a game that was in the main conversation, whatever term you want to put on it. But this is still People Can Fly. This is only their main second outing. Is that correct? Right?
Yeah, I mean they've done support stuff as far as I was aware, but you know, nothing major since Bulletstorm and Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition, of course. So
I will applaud them for the pro-consumer move of the demo.
For sure. And we saw one with Monster Hunter Rise as well. So
is that out
good
now?
Stuff. The demo is out now.
I gotta play that. That's intriguing to me.
Well, it's good you found out late.
Very good graphically. Reports graphically are that it's insanely good.
Yeah. What's good to know is that since you're coming in late, it was having server issues because so many people were playing it. So I'm thinking that you hopping in a little bit later will benefit you. But that's good that it's having server issues, right? I mean, that shows it a lot of hype. I think people are excited to use their Switch for something else other than fucking Animal Crossing.
Dude,
you know?
Monster Hunter is like mainstream now. Obviously, it's been a huge franchise in Japan and it has its core audience, but now with World being I never expected World to be that successful, honestly. I expected to be a more core title for people, but man, success. I'm happy for them, you know. Good on Capcom for making a lot of very good games.
Yeah, they've been on a roll lately, so hopefully Monster Hunter Rise is more of that, and hopefully more so for me, Outriders is fire. I would like nothing more. All right. Last bit of news. Like I said, this was definitely a slower week as we kind of roll back into things. So apologies for that. If we could control this, we'd have 8 game announcements this week. Anyway, we are going to be talking about now a little Nintendo. Now, I know we're not a Nintendo show, but I thought this was a pretty significant studio acquisition for Nintendo. So I'm going to read off the news, and then I just got to jet to the bathroom real quick, and you gents can discuss. Nintendo acquires long-time partner Next Level Games, the team behind Luigi's Mansion 3. They'd also worked, here we go, on the Mario Strikers franchise. Nintendo will buy 100% of the outstanding shares of the Vancouver, Canada-based developer, and as such, Next Level Games will become a wholly owned subsidiary of Nintendo. The deal is expected to close on March 1st. So, Next Level Games' first Nintendo exclusive project was Mario Strikers for GameCube, which was followed up by Mario Strikers Charged for the Wii. And then they also did, it says, Punch-Out for Wii. And later they did Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon and Metroid Prime Federation Force before releasing Luigi's Mansion 3, which is a fantastic game in 2019. Next Level Games has also been an independent developer before, working on games for Activision, such as Spider-Man Friend or Foe and Transformers Cybertron Adventures. Nintendo said the acquisition will only have minor effects on the current financial year. More details about the earning forecast for Nintendo factoring in Next Level Games will be announced later. Anyway, gentlemen, give me just one moment here. You guys discuss, though. What do you think of Luigi's Mansion 3 developer Next Level Games, being acquired by Nintendo?
All right. Well, this is ironic that Maddie is leaving us with this because I have not played any of those games.
Good. Let's talk about something else because I fucking haven't played those. I have no clue what he's talking about that entire time. But I didn't really get to talk about Outriders, and I do. Well, it's not that I didn't want to. Something popped up after I moved on, so we'll talk about that, and we'll return and pretend we talked about this.
Cool,
dude. Outriders looks so fucking generic. Like I couldn't tell you of a game that I don't care about more right now. And what's weird is the couple of people I've talked to who've played it have all liked the demo. Or not the depth, whatever hands-on they had. In fact, I think almost everybody has. But what I'm worried about with Outriders, dude, is that generic stuff is gonna like seep in after a small amount of time. Like I'm not worried about, because like a demo, I don't know how long you got to play, but like usually my demos are, at the very most, if you're, in some way sitting down with people, 30 minutes to an hour, where it's like, what's Outriders gonna feel like 4 hours in or 6 hours? And is that genericness? Because dude, that game exudes generic to me every time. And what was even worrisome was I didn't know anything about this wording shit. The writing shit he was talking about, because there's another game this reminds me of that failed utterly for me, which was Remnant. Remnant, I was really excited for. And the writing, I guess, was okay, but the genericness of that world crept up on me faster than almost anybody I know. And it crept up on them later. But I'm just worried. Outriders feels like that to me. Feels like the same kind of game, I guess. I don't know.
I think my hope is that I thought the gameplay was fun. There's a lot of focus on like powers. And so you can kind of like create builds with different abilities. So like the character I played as had a lot of fire-based abilities. And so yeah, it had an interesting element where like you would like blast people and catch them on fire and then shoot at them. And then there's other abilities, buffs and
was it magic or was that like fire? Like those would be your weapon types.
It was like magic. You would say like I'm shooting fire.
Bionics or magic or something to that.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I don't expect this game to be a great or amazing. I'm hoping it's just one of those kind of like fun, good, not great games. You've talked about that, how like we need to appreciate these games that are not every game needs to be 10 out of 10.
No, in fact, if they are, it'd fucking ruin everything. So I'm okay with that.
I thought of you actually the other day because I don't know if you know what Family Video is. It's like a video rental store.
Family
of the
Video
last ones.
Video rent. Yeah. We used to have them here.
So they're going out of business. And so I went to the going out of business sale and I got like Sekiro on PS4 just because I wanted to try to play it again for trophies. But I also picked up the Attack on Titan game And I was like, I know this game is not very good, but I think it will be fun. And usually like my mind just says like, if it's not good or it's not amazing, skip it, save your money, which I think that should be true for most people. But I'm like, you know what? I was thinking about what you said. It's right? Like
not two,
just the first Attack on Titan game. Yeah,
you're in good shape. The first Attack on Titans, your first Attack on Titan is actually 10 times better than the second Attack. That game, even Maddie, I think, hated that one. But the first one is pretty good, man. And I'm not an anime fan at all. I don't know much about Attack on Titan as an anime or anything. I read up on it when I started to jump in, and I think I've watched a couple. That might be one of the few I've actually watched. But I think you'll actually like it. It looks sort of janky and it controls sort of janky, but it was actually sort of fun to leap up there and I couldn't figure out what was going on where you're cutting their necks off. I was like, what the fuck is this game? Yeah, the nape. And I was like, what is fucking happening in this game? But then the more I played it, the more I was like, I don't really care. It's pretty fun to like, you have the rubber band thing that you basically pull yourself. I don't know what it's fucking called.
It's like Spider-Man kind of.
It is.
That is flying around.
And it showed where you can do that well, where like a game like Extinction shows you can do it terribly. And so where Extinction was horrible, I actually felt Attack on Titan did the big enemies and that kind of stuff actually pretty well. I think you'll probably like it. Obviously not a classic.
For $10, I was like,
oh yeah, for $10.
If this game is shit, then I can just, I don't know. Use it.
Yeah, that's that's a loss.
Okay.
You can just pretend that's a burger you didn't get. For $10. That's no big deal. $10 is actually because I'm pretty sure I rated that a buy. So at $10, you're and I'm almost 1,000% sure Maddie did, because we've talked about the two before and how one was actually very good. I don't know if it follows the story. Maddie would know, but I don't know if it follows the story exactly.
Well, that's good. I'm excited.
It'll be fun for you to actually get a chance to play for $10, man. That's not bad.
Yeah, dude, it was cool. There was a lot of games on sale there. That was like there was some stuff that I was like considering, but there's so
did they
so
do
many
a $10 is the max kind of thing, or did what was the cost breakdown for some of those?
It depends. Like they had PS5 games. Like you could get Call of Duty and Demon Souls, and I think they were $40. So
interesting. That's still a little off. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's funny as far as Luigi's Mansion. I wanted to get that, but they didn't have it. But I think their Switch first party games were $30. Which initially I was like, that's a little high. But then I thought, this is Nintendo first party, so that's actually not
exactly.
Not bad.
That's approximately half off, I think, because those fuckers never drop their price. By the way, Maddie, neither one of us even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Dang it!
Yeah, I was gonna say I
thought we were gonna play it off.
Outriders.
I stepped away, and all I hear across my room from the headset is Dustin go, yeah, I never played this. And Karak goes, yeah, let's talk about something else. And I'm like, oh, God. I was like, dude, what the fuck did I leave them with? Like, what happened?
I was going to lie and be like, blah, blah, blah. But the reason why I'm not going to is because I did want to ask you. I liked Attack on Titan 1, and I think you did too. But you also didn't like 2, right?
Yeah, because it was too much like the first game. But what's interesting, it's one of those games kind of like a Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, where if you've never played the first, then hopping into the second is ideal.
That makes sense. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
He
bought number 1, so he was wondering.
Yeah, I got it for $10.
I liked them. I thought they were pretty good. $10.
Did you get it physical?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. The second one, physical, as well as the final battle version of the second one, is like $100-something online. Like it's
that's crazy. I gotta look this up.
Yeah,
I got it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I haven't seen it on GameStop or anything. It's just it's a really hard to find game now, and it annoys me because I had it. This is why I don't sell my games anymore. I fucking had it, and I sold it just to get trading credit because I didn't have cash, and that was it.
Right. I was sorry for the listeners; they already heard this, but Maddie, I was at the Family Video going at a business sale. And so I got that for $10, and I got Sekiro. And then, dude, it was great because all their 4K movies were on sale, and nobody in my town gives a single fuck about 4K movies. And so everyone was like, looking around at Blu-rays and games, and I was like all by myself in the 4K section. Like,
so this is interesting. PS5 is a Blu-ray, right?
Yes.
Am I going crazy? It was
4K
PS3
Blu-ray.
that wasn't, right? One of them wasn't.
The PS4
Or was
Pro.
it like maybe the PS4 Pro?
People expected PS4 Pro to have 4K support because it is a Sony product, and the Xbox One S had 4K Blu-ray support.
Yeah.
And PS4 Pro didn't.
So I'm having horrendous issues with every single. I mean, I don't think a Blu-ray has worked for me yet on either system.
Really?
And what I mean by that is they'll play, but they judder, and judders like when the 24 frames per second has an issue where they hold the frame too long, because you'll see it in arting. They'll actually do a breakdown of judder. I have no clue what's going on, but the PS5 and the Xbox, I bought Magnificent Seven. It's a Western with like Chris Pratt. It's a ripoff of the Samurai one, but this is Western. And then I bought Martian, The Martian. The Martian's really bad. I mean, like entire scenes will just stick. So you're playing in what? Are you playing in a system? Are you PC?
Yeah.
Or are you playing in and they don't have those issues?
Before I had the PS5, I was using, I guess, and the Series X, I was using my Xbox One S for 4K movies. And now I've been using my PS5 because apparently, according to a great YouTuber named HD TV Test, go check him out. He found that, dude, that guy, it's like you start to watch it. He's he's this Asian guy that has a very strong accent, but he suddenly has like this really perverse humor that just like lingers.
Very perverse. You'll hear some random thing and your brain will be like, did he
just say that?
Is that a blowjob joke? Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But he said what?
He said that he found that the Series X 4K Blu-ray player has raised black levels. So you won't get a true black in an HDR disc with the Series X at the time being. Luckily, because of his video, Microsoft responded and was like, we are going to fix that. So at the time being, maybe they already have, I'm not sure, I haven't checked up, but at the time the PS5 is the superior 4K player. But
for me, that sucks.
That's weird, dude. I don't know.
I mean, every single fucking one too. And that's why it was weird you mentioned it, because I have been wanting to figure out what is wrong with it. And maybe it's just I don't know. These new next gen systems, I'm not incredibly in love with. Maybe I'm just unlucky and something's popped up and maybe it's bad discs from Amazon. Who knows?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it sounds like you got those new, because when I tried to pop in a disc for, I think it was like Star Wars or something, the disc somehow got a little dirty. Like I must have like put it on top of the system and something happened, and then it was juddering around like that, and then I just cleaned it off and it was fine. But it sounds like yours wouldn't be dirty.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't be. I'm going to check one more time. I sort of gave up, actually, and started using more streaming stuff because they were so bad. I would really like to watch some, because I have a bunch of those movies. I bought them on purpose because I like director, or not director, anything. I like behind the scenes.
Right.
And you can't get that in a lot of streams. You'll find out that like 80% of the behind the scenes stuff just isn't even available anywhere. But I've been sort of burned. I'm glad you mentioned. I'll have to check it out tonight. Anyway, Maddie, so we can pretend we talked about Mario, but
yeah, I like how you call it Mario. That's the best part. That's the best fucking part.
Mario? What did you say? Did I forget already?
Yeah.
It's Luigi.
Well,
what is it?
They developed Mario Strikers. They developed Mario Strikers,
okay.
but yeah, it was.
He was partially right. I mean,
I
was partially right.
All right, yeah.
I mean, why do we care about this? Is this a big deal to Nintendo fans?
For sure, I would say. Just to have that talent secured. I mean, I don't know. I got to say, because you were talking about like Monster Hunter Rise looking good. Like I think before that, I don't know how great it looks because I haven't played it yet. But Luigi's Mansion 3 was definitely like the best looking Switch game, I thought.
I have heard that as well.
It's
phenomenal.
It is pretty impressive. Handheld and docked. Very impressive looking game. And it's so fun. It's just so fun. It's not a game that I really replayed much, but it had like a shockingly good multiplayer. It's one that I remember fondly. I really like that game a lot. I would recommend it to anyone owning a Switch personally. But good get for Nintendo, even though that was like not half our conversation. But that's okay. That's what the show's all about. We suck.
I mean, we could. I just don't want to talk about it and have some jackass Nintendo fan Like, technically,
Actually.
like, dude, yeah. I don't know anything about that. I do have a question. Did you guys see the stuff about the Switch 2, the Pro, the leak?
Oh,
Are we going to talk about that?
I mean,
or is that
I feel like I
real?
see that every fucking week. Like, if there's new stuff,
normally
let me
you
know.
do, but this one actually is from like there was people who were like investigating that, saying that it is like, I don't know what the term would be, devoid of questionable matter, and that people had investigated that.
I follow a lot of
again,
YouTubers who do Nintendo content. No, I follow a lot of YouTubers who do Nintendo content.
Spawn. He's probably the only one.
And I see Switch Pro in the title of like most videos.
Everyone, yeah, right.
And it's like
4K.
Yeah, and I'm just like, all right, just hit me up when it's real. And so is this? No,
we can hit it when it's real.
Well, no, if there's something more to it that's substantial, I'm more so saying I feel like I've been full of the hints of it being real that now I've checked out until it is real, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. Like, is there?
No, I don't have anything to add, because I was hoping you would have something, because it's just that we talked about it, that people had, I guess, looked into it and were like, this one's one of the first ones that appears true, and they were even talking about RAM size, like internal size, and DLSS 2 obviously I think is the big one, but that it was going to be 4K, blah blah blah. But no, I'd rather not talk about it unless one of us knows even more. Just because, yeah, like you said, you can just type the word Pro into YouTube and that'll be the first thing that shows up.
Yeah, I will say, going back for Fire Emblem and Hades less so, but I've been using my Switch a little bit more, and I've started to. I feel like the Switch has aged quickly. If it's still a great system, I still like it, but I can feel its limitations. And I feel like that was, at first I thought it was maybe a bit of the next gen honeymoon with the Series X and the PS5. But now, after I've used them pretty consistently, going back to the Switch, and it's really the load times and the visuals that stick out to me as kind of like a sore thumb.
Dude,
and
Fire Emblem is
a lot of loads, and
I just think that some of the way that they did the character models, just they look crunchy. I don't know how to describe it. Like,
some look really good, and like Dimitri
in the backgrounds.
Yes,
during the character interaction scenes, the backgrounds, I'm like, this is not good.
Which is cool, because there's that one, and then we do have, like, I was talking to people this morning about Monster Hunter, and that, like, people are freaking out about how good that looks. So I guess in the end, I agree. I think it's aged a little bit quick. I still like it, like, obviously, but I think we'll probably see less and less, of those phenomenal games, especially when you start seeing some of them. Like, I don't know why they tried Witcher 3. That was such a disaster. Sorry, you should have sometimes you just can't get the hottie. You just have to be like, the football jock is going to bang her. I'm not going to get her. But they put Witcher 3 on there, and it was such a disaster. And it was
I've heard good things.
I think I'm going to say the Witcher 3 on Switch.
Lying. They're lying if they say you've heard anything positive. Okay.
No, I'm going to say
have a battle.
I'm going to say the Witcher 3 on Switch is the nerd who scored the hot chick. I think they did a great job.
No, they fucking didn't.
Yeah, what?
You are full of shit.
Wait, what?
Witcher 3 technically on the fucking Switch looks horrendous.
Karak, maybe it's not about looks. Maybe it's about the time you have together. Okay?
Yeah,
you ever think about that?
But that would be about the Switch, not about the fucking other person, and that's what we're talking about.
All right, hold on.
Witcher 3 on the Switch looks like dick.
You think so? But I feel like when I tweaked all the visual settings,
resolution is like 3, not 300, 3.
If you're playing that on a Switch Lite, which, by the way, I have never played Witcher 3 on Switch, but I have to imagine when you're seeing the video on, like, YouTube, it's probably going to be on your TV or whatever. But, like, dude, I feel like on a little Switch Lite, like a tiny...
I play it on my Switch. I played it on my Switch, and it's fun. I can't even... I'm not playing it.
Do you dock it?
I've done both. Docked, it looked fucking horrendous.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you dock it, that's just wrong.
But yeah,
you're playing it handheld. That's the play. That's great.
Okay, well, ignoring that, moving to the discussion of that, we will see less and less cool looking games on the Switch. I agree. I think that it's aging. We'll ignore that you're completely wrong about Witcher 3.
I was going to say, I'm going to add to my list here of Karak. We've got Hates Hardline. We've got Loves Primal. And we're going to write Hates Witcher 3 on Switch.
No, I hate the look of Witcher 3 on Switch.
You hate everything about it. I'm going to slander you.
It does the quest. It just looks like dick. Man, I don't know. You know why? I bet you it just dawned on me. I bet you just said you had a honeymoon with Xbox and PS5. I bet you.
I thought it might have been that.
I bet you mine is a bit that, in the fact that I'm doing a bunch of streaming stuff on my tablet. My tablet's a
That would
nice
make a difference,
resolution, and playing like Skyrim with 200 mods on the tablet is ridiculous.
That could be, yeah. That would make sense.
Nah, it's not. Witcher 3 looks like shit. I walked you into that. I fucking in no way, shape, or form think it's... I think you are wrong.
What?
I'm looking this up.
What? I was trying to give you a bone there. Let you walk out with some pride.
I know. I walked you into it because I'm going to prove Does Witcher 3 look good on Switch? You know, I'll be wrong.
We're just going to go to the internet?
Good.
I don't know. Dude, Maddie, we're not making the argument it looks good. That's not what I would be arguing.
That I was saying that it looked like shit. Absolute shit.
I thought it looked good enough.
I heard it improved a lot after launch too.
That is true. Did you guys also see that that somebody figured out a way to whoa, did I lose Maddie?
No, I'm here.
Hang on. Yeah. My picture went away. There we go. You're back. Okay. It's funny Dustin mentions that, because did you guys see that somebody figured out they got the hacked version of the Switch and then they turned the CPU up and they went in and fucked around with
that was a Modern Vintage Gamer, right?
Yeah. Was that Modern Vintage?
Yeah, well, yeah, because he
hacks everything.
Yeah, I was going to say he hacks everything, and he got in there, and then they did a patch, and those I was talking about that because you can tweak the visuals and get rid of a lot of, I think, its issues and make the image a lot more crisp. Where even when I did dock it, I remember I had to dock it for gameplay because I made a video about that patch because I was very impressed by it. I thought it was you're gonna keep shaking your head, but you're wrong. You're wrong. That's fine. You can sit there and be wrong, but it looks great. It looks great, at least on handheld.
Dude, you're going up. Now you're saying it looks great. You're starting to do that thing.
I'm starting to double down.
Pretty soon you'll be like, dude, Witcher 3 is easily the best looking game on Switch. Which I've done before. I absolutely know what it's like to double down. You weren't doing that, but yeah.
No, I definitely was. As you shook your head, I absolutely had to double down.
What other games are there on Switch that in this year did Luigi's come out this year?
That was 2019, I think October. I want to say. The Switch, it's usually about the art style. I feel, but that's. Yeah, I feel like that's a whole conversation in its own right. Like Luigi's Mansion, you could see like fully rendered models, and they actually looked clean, and there really wasn't a sacrifice, and the world was very colorful and detailed and reactive. So that's I think that's a legitimately good looking game. Whereas, I don't know, I'm looking at my Switch collection now. I think of games I played on there like Banner Saga. I think of Hades. Like these are all
what you're saying.
Art. Yeah. So. It's hard to, could you say Smash is a good-looking game because Smash Bros. Combines all these different characters from different universes on screen, and it kind of looks normal, right, I guess.
I get what you're saying.
Could you argue that's a good-looking game? I don't know. The Switch, Nintendo has never, I've never talked about Nintendo and graphical power before, but any old game, I never had a Nintendo game wow me visually. It's usually like, oh, wow, the art. They got this on this. It's usually it. It's squeezing something onto their technology. It's always even that way when I was a kid, right?
I don't know, dude. I'm thinking about. Well, I don't know. We're
really
I'm just thinking, like, man, I feel like the sprite work that they did on some Super Nintendo games, like thinking of like Super Metroid, like they created atmosphere in that with that game. Like
that
really
reminds me, I forgot one. Octopath Traveler is one of the best looking games on Switch.
That is correct.
Fuck yeah. It's
art wise.
Yeah.
But it does use Unreal Engine, and so like the towns of water and stuff, it looks so. What a great game.
Yeah,
I can't wait for them to do more.
I believe for a little while because I was trying to figure out if I wanted it, and it looked.
That was like 2 years ago. Holy crap,
dude!
Was there a Mario Odyssey too?
Just Odyssey.
I would hope, but not as of right now.
So not as right. So was that game? Because dude, that game, it's weird to me that N64 had Mario 64 or whatever. It's so popular. And then you have that game on Switch, and I never hear anybody ever talk about it, other than when we did during the podcast. But then it just disappeared. Was it just not that good?
The 3D All-Stars, you mean?
No, Mario Odyssey on the Switch.
Dude, I think it's amazing. I thought it was fantastic. I think it's better than Galaxy.
Like, why is 2 not already being talked about? Which interests me. Like, why?
I feel like Mario's had like a lot of weird random successes between
that is true
Odyssey and now, right? Like they did what last year was like Mario 99 or no, I'm thinking of Tetris, but Mario got like this game where it was like a battle royale Mario where everyone's side scrolling the same levels.
Oh my god,
35, that's what it was.
35. Mario 35. Super Mario 35.
Yeah.
Maddie.
And
sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were moving on.
No, I wasn't moving. I wasn't trying to hustle this conversation. No, I was just going to say that they've had, what else? They did the 3D All-Stars. I feel like I've seen Mario in a lot of different lights, and they're just kind of taking the Pokemon route.
Because I think that was back in the day when Lone was on, if I remember right. Because I believe Lone played it.
Yeah, that was 2017. Yeah.
And we were talking about it, and it just seems like that was going to be a thing. And I was expecting a 2. I just wonder why some games they do sequels for and others you just never hear about again. It always seems, especially because Odyssey just felt like
I would rather them do a sequel to Mario and Rabbids and just call it a fucking day.
Oh, well, yeah.
You would rather have a sequel to Mario and Rabbids over Mario Odyssey 2?
I would. I'd rather have Mario and Rabbids.
Maddie, no. How dare you?
Any game.
I'm having bad takes everywhere.
Any game, I would rather have Mario Rabbids over right now. Any game. PS5, Xbox, KOTOR. Yes,
I may have to leave this show.
I just said it.
KOTOR. For this take from both of you.
Mario Rabbids is one of the greatest games ever made. Like,
I'm not dissing on Mario and Rabbids.
I know you're not. I'm just saying I want a sequel to that more than I want a sequel to almost anything. I don't know why.
It would be very nice to see them go at that again. Because the thing is, they actually nailed it first try. They nailed it first try.
It's so rare to see that from a company.
It shouldn't have worked. It did. It was incredible. Dustin, I know you haven't played it.
No, it's not. I think the Rabbids are too fucking annoying. I can't do it.
Damn it.
I can't. I'm sorry.
Do you like XCOM gameplay though?
I do. I just can't.
You don't want to give like a rabid Mario a shotgun and have him like
too bad you didn't spend $10 on that, Dustin. It would have been funny to see you spend $10 and buy it. And
I did buy it.
Oh, you got it
months ago, and I did play probably like 2 or 3 hours, maybe.
But can't stand the Rabbids,
dude. I just it feels wrong. It feels like Minions in Mario, and that disgusts me.
They are very much like Minions.
They are.
But
that's true.
Maddie, I had to put something out into the void because I want this to happen so bad that I need to evangelize it. And hopefully maybe this somehow will flutter from this room across the interwebs and eventually hit Japan right through the means of communication. The Octopath Traveler team, who is that again? They did they're doing Bravely Default 2, right?
If they are, I'm going to be upset because I want more Octopath. Bravely Default looks so...
Here's what I want.
Generic. I'll look it up in the meantime.
That's a Square Enix game, right? They're somehow partnered. I don't know if Square Enix owns that team. I don't know what's going on.
It's a published game, at least.
Have that team remake Final Fantasy VI in that style. This is the way. This is what we need. And I will not hear any other opinions about it. Thank you.
Yeah, there is a lot of games that team could lay their hands on. Like, I would like to see Chrono Trigger remade.
I'll take that. I'll take
them
as
well.
It's published by Square Enix. So much potential with that, like, you know, the sprites and the pixel art in like 3D, dude.
It says it was developed by Square Enix in collaboration with Acquire. And let's see here. What games did Acquire work on? Tenchu, No Heroes Allowed, Akiba's Trip.
Nothing big.
Nothing big.
Really?
Yeah, like
I thought that there was something with the Bravely Default team in that game.
Way of the Samurai, Shinobito. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say this, but the only series I recognize here is Tenshu and Akiba's Trip, which I'm pretty sure is like a
producer. They share the same producer. That's it.
I
knew there was some weird connection there.
Yeah. I feel like they need to explore Octopath Traveler more because that game did really well. That sold like over 2 million copies for a fucking like old school JRPG. I mean, come on. I like.
Has anyone played the
searches.
PC version of that?
No, but my friend has, and it's good.
So
it's got 5,100 reviews on Steam at a rating of very positive.
I just
as it should.
I didn't tell you guys this, but I bought myself an OLED for my computer in this office.
Oh,
like one of the 43-inch, and I feel like that game would just in 4K would be very nice.
Yeah, I agree. It's a beautiful game. All right. Well, last but certainly not least, we've got our patron questions. So let's get right into it. Let's switch on over, and we'll start off with The Den. The Den writes in, asking a quick question that we can fly right through. Longtime listener, new patron, welcome aboard. I have to ask, are there any plans to update the YouTube thumbnail now that you have 3 hosts again? This is something that we've looked into. We want to keep the thumbnail the same, but we want to get Dustin's face in there. It's just about where can we squeeze Dustin into that thumbnail. But
You can
Dustin,
squeeze me in a lot of places, man.
Yeah,
You just gotta try it out.
Him out. Cartoonify him. Just take him out, cartoonify him, and slap him right in like the center of it, and see how triggered people become.
Anyway, yeah, it's something we're looking into, but we don't want to change it too much because right now we have a pretty good rhythm of people knowing when I'm posting my podcast versus when I'm posting regular content on my channel where the video version is held. So it's something we're going to get Dustin's face in there just about when also the artist is ready and willing because, it's their time, not ours. But now on to questions we can all answer. NBA Young Boy writes in, hey, new patron here. I've been enjoying your podcast, so keep up the great work. Thank you. Welcome aboard. This one's more for Maddie since we share an appreciation for the Sly Cooper series. If Sony were to return to the IP, what should they do first? A proper sequel to Sly 4 to resolve the cliffhanger ending. A Blue Point/Crash Insane style remake of 4 games. Or a fresh reboot of the franchise. With a Sly Cooper animated series rumored to be in the works at PlayStation Productions, I hope we get to see the return of this video game this decade. Thanks and take care, guys. You have more patience than me. A decade, you're willing to wait. I can't read. Okay. Now, gentlemen, obviously I am the resident Sly Cooper fan here, but I don't want to absorb all of the conversation. If you could see more Sly Cooper, in what form would it be? And I could tell by Karak's fucking face, he's going to say he doesn't want it at all. He hates Sly Cooper.
No, I don't. Fuck off, man. Just because you were wrong about Witcher. So here's the thing.
Karak all episode now.
This is the honest truth. When he was bringing that up, I would love to see a fucking RPG where you're in some way with those characters. A full RPG, like a group RPG, not a not like Rise of the Tomb Raider, but something that was like almost like not Bard's Tale. I'm trying to think of where you have the group battle dynamic and stuff like that. I think something like that would be cool. Something completely different.
I'd be so about that.
I don't know why, but I think that their world, even though I'm not a massive fan, I think their world and their character and their side stuff is more, what's the term? More interesting than like a Ratchet and Clank doing the same thing. Even though Ratchet and Clank themselves are interesting, for some reason, I'm not as interested in that. Sly Cooper, I sort of like the animals as people kind of stuff. There's a lot going on. I think it'd be very fun.
Yeah, I would take honestly anything. I got to be honest with you. I know I'm sounding a little desperate here, but I really would, whether it's a return or not. I think knowing PlayStation, if this were to ever happen, it would be a kind of soft reboot.
Probably, yeah.
That would make the most sense. I would, though. See, the thing is, it's a third-person game with stealth elements. I think it would fit sort of into their repertoire. They're certainly open to these kid-style games with like Sackboy, A Big Adventure and shit. So I would like to see them give Sly Cooper a crack because it was that good in-betweener. It reminds me of how I feel emotionally about SpongeBob, right? You could play it when you're older, and there's a whole different meaning versus when you play it as a kid. As a kid, you're a raccoon going around stealing shit. As an adult, it has a lot more meaning behind it, right? The power of friendship, Sly's family, dying, vengeance. Is vengeance worth it? Bentley, the tragedy of Bentley. Like, there's so much here, man. And so
I love how excited you became, and I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. And you're like, the tragedy of Bentley, which it's like talking about like Shakespeare or something and being really excited about some side character. And I'm just like, great.
Isn't he a turtle?
Bentley is a turtle.
Bentley is
the tragedy
a
of Bentley the
much.
turtle.
Yeah, the tragedy of it sounds like Mr. Matty laying in bed, young kid, his mom comes in to read him a book. That's the fucking title of the book.
Here's the thing.
Tragedy of Bentley the turtle.
I cannot make fun of Matty right now because I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan. So I will leave it at that.
Yeah, once you're a Kingdom Hearts fan, you can't tease anybody, right?
Honestly, if you're a
Like,
Kingdom Hearts
game
fan,
over.
you probably should just try to not be part of the video game industry.
Yeah,
really.
right. And
Yeah,
certainly
you
not
just
the
need to be quiet.
naming of video games in the video game industry. Those two things.
Fuck no. Yeah, you got to leave that be.
33 and a third, foo bar, gravity well, R over Q.
Gravity.
It's like, what the fuck does this even mean?
For real. Well, anyway, I'd like to see Sly Cooper in some form.
Yeah.
You know, I think they could get away with bringing it back, and it wouldn't disrupt any of their other plans. So we will see, but I doubt Blue Point would do a remake. I'll say that much.
I love
think
that
it's the type of
Maddie's
game that needs
dog
to be
is
remade.
just singing in the background. Isn't that your dog, Maddie?
That is Duke. Yeah, Duke is just
Love him.
Every time when
He
we get
is
food,
excited.
yeah, when we get food, he just barks
Oh.
and barks and barks.
Yeah.
That's his shit, man.
It's no big deal at all.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I tried to
just
mute
know.
it like when the food came in because my parents ordered food. You know, that's when it's like, all right, we mute because they're like, bop, 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 bop. My dogs are just trading blows with barks. So now Duke's just having a good
Are you
time.
excited? I'm excited. Are you still excited? Very excited. How excited
Yeah.
are you? Really excited. It's just back and forth.
Well, that's the
way
thing.
dogs
It's like a
think,
dick
man.
measuring contest, man. You got like
It
one dog barking and then
absolutely
another
is.
barks louder,
Yep.
and they just get louder,
Yep.
louder until they're
And
like,
if you
"Ah!"
ever notice, one sometimes will roll up and he'll like begin a bark and then sort of peter off, and the other dog hears that, and then he'll fully bark, and then the first dog's like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
just go.
That's what Revan does. He'll kind of come in. We call it woofing because he's not full
Yeah.
like, "Rawr." He's like,
That's what
"Oof,
mine does.
oof,"
Mhm.
like that. Like
It's a
he's testing
half
the
bark.
waters.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other
Yeah.
dog, when he's like woof, the dog's like woof, and he's like woof for sure. Okay,
Dude,
let's do this.
Yeah, he's like, bark. It's like, that's it. It's done.
The polite bark can be so cute though, initially, but the problem is it usually leads to a really annoying bark.
Oh, it
like
usually leads
like
to
a
annoying
burr.
work. Yeah.
Brr. That's my parents' dog does that. It's like a very polite. It starts polite, not
Mhm.
doesn't end that way though.
Right, exactly, right? Like Duke will start like, "Oh," and you're like, "Oh, that's
Like
cute."
British
and then
hooligans.
and what he's
talking
doing
bad
now,
to
you're
you,
like,
and at
"Shut
first
up."
they're like, "Pip pip, gentlemen, take off your hat," and then pretty soon they're like, "Fuck you, you son of a bitch," and they're smashing each other in the nuts, and you have no clue how to escalate.
Smash each other. Justin Luvano writes in, I've been enjoying my Series X for the last week as I've been playing it. I've noticed my greatest appreciation for next gen is a steady 60 frames on every game I play. Being a base PS4 user with no PC, I rarely get a solid 60 on a nice looking game. My questions are, 1, do you believe that performance with such a high frame rate will be a big next gen leap, or will we see extreme graphical enhancements after a few years like we saw with the last generation? And 2, do you see Game Pass acquiring another big company such as Ubisoft Games? As a Sony fanboy, Game Pass has caused me to completely switch to Xbox, and I am loving it this generation. The second one we actually answered on Defining Duke. We talked entirely about Ubisoft and Uplay coming to Xbox. So we don't want to make it a thing where that show takes away from this one. But since we did talk about it extensively, I will point you in that show for an extensive conversation. But long story short, it makes sense as the next logical step for Xbox and their Game Pass offerings. But keep in mind, they are bringing the rest of the Bethesda library in when that acquisition goes through. So you're going to see a big boost there sooner rather than later. When it comes to performance and high frame rate or graphical leaps, what do you gentlemen expect this generation?
Performance mode versus quality will be pretty normal. The thing that people don't realize is sometimes you'll tie physics in to frame rate, and so you tie them at 30 FPS. Your physics doesn't eat up your CPU, which is usually where the physics are, and then the GPU can do its resolution. Now with the better CPUs on these, that's why you're starting to see performance mode, because the CPUs themselves just could not do it in the past.
Right.
So I think a lot of companies see it and they're like, hey, performance mode, it works for us. I personally hate it because I want locked frame rate. So I don't want a performance mode. I want a 60 FPS mode or a 30 FPS mode. I do not like the bullshit variability, because the variability increases lag at the worst possible time. You're losing FPS when it's super busy, and when it's super busy in a game is usually when you need the FPS. And that bothers the fuck out of me. It's why I lower the FPS or lower the resolution on my PC, for instance, to make sure that I'm locked somewhere. And I've played games, by the way, locked at weird FPS. Like, I can't hit 60, but I don't want to hit 30. And I'll be like, I'll lock this bitch at 45 as long as it's locked. Because I know, because I don't want the thing where you sweep and suddenly it's like, and then it speeds up again. So, I think we'll see the continuation of performance and quality, but I would love to see them have performance just be 60. And also, by the way, companies need to knock the lies off about 60 FPS modes, because they're purposely using fucked up English. They need to say not 60 FPS mode. They don't need to say up to. It needs to be either locked 60 FPS or variable, so that people don't go into it thinking it's 60 FPS and it's not. And almost every console game, they lie. And they'll make it sound like it's 60. They'll be like, we have a 60 FPS mode. It means nothing. It means it caps at 60. And that, when you cap at 60, looking at the ground, so.
Yeah.
That's my take.
Fair enough.
I think that 60 FPS or performance, whatever you want to say, is hopefully a defining feature in this generation. Because right out the bat, to give it to Sony in particular, which I mean Xbox, since they haven't had many of their first party titles come out, but I mean they have led the way with Gears, right? Gears is a good example of making sure to support like a good performance mode. But to see so many games right out the gate offer either 60 FPS or the option between the two is great. I think particularly Demon's Souls did a really good job with their performance mode. So, and I think that overall just performance is more in the public conscience than ever before. And I don't know if that's because of the rise of channels like Digital Foundry, or it's just something people are more aware of just overall in general after being burned by games that don't have good performance. But I think that more and more it's becoming a selling factor for developers to offer multiple modes, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, right on. All right, moving on to Johnny EC. What's something in games, such as mechanics, you feel developers haven't done right? For me, I've been playing Metro Exodus and Cyberpunk before that, and both have first/third-person camera hybrid, where you see the body, but in the first-person perspective. While it's cool to be able to see your body, I feel like developers still haven't done this feature right, because I notice all the time how stiff your shadows are or how flimsy your character is when sprinting. I can't tell you how many times I've died because I accidentally sprint while going down a set of stairs. That's interesting. I've never had that issue before. But do you guys feel there's a mechanic consistently developers don't get right in games?
Yeah. Soft cursors need to go away completely. Anything that involves not snapping to a thing, like Division's probably one of the worst offenders. Division's HUD is probably one of the worst things I've ever had to experience. Like, I never want to play Division and Destiny both. Anytime you have a soft cursor with a gamepad, makes no sense. I think that, I don't know what they were trying to do. I did hear a rumor just recently that it was because they were trying to load in stuff. So the soft cursor allows for them to assume where you're headed and begin to load whatever you want to see. So if it's armor, you slow as you're moving the shitty ass, slow, old grandma fucking cursor across the screen. The game is saying, okay, we know Karak's headed to that. But I would say that's HUDs and inventories as a whole are just terrible. They're terrible, and they're terrible in a lot of games. A lot holding X for fucking 5 seconds to destroy something, like all of these things to me. There's pretty easy fixes that I would like to see. So for me, it's more about the HUDs and the inventory than
not to piggyback you too much, so I won't talk too long on it. But for me, it's definitely like inventory management and HUD. I feel.
So bad.
As much as I liked Cyberpunk, I gotta say its inventory management was pretty fucking brutal. It's
trying to destroy something and no sound.
Yeah.
You're all, did I destroy that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for me. I get it's very RPG to have the grid right when you open your inventory and you see the grid kind of laying out all your different weapons, and it's almost like a game of fucking Tetris with all your building blocks. And they have them all laid out with different colors. But then you like hover a cursor over, and then like all of a sudden the HUD's gonna cover another part that you need to see.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean now.
It's such a common issue in RPGs. Even one of my favorites, Divinity, has a really big fucking HUD issue because what happens is the HUD covers the other important thing you need to see. So you pop it up, you read it, you memorize it, you minimize it, and then you bring up the other one. And then sometimes games compare them, but like the fucking screens are like this fucking vertical, so you can't read both of them at the same time to see the stats. It blows my mind. So yeah, for me, it's inventory management really, but I think that boils down ultimately to HUD. So that'd be mine. Absolutely.
Did the question say mechanic or feature?
Mechanics. He said such as mechanics.
Because I would say that my wish is being granted, because last generation, the number one thing I wanted was more graphics and performance options in console games, and so now we're getting that. So I don't know if that really counts, but we'll go with that.
I would say that counts.
I guess another one you could say along the graphics options is also FOV.
Yes, yeah, which we're starting to get that now. I mean, Call of Duty supports it, so you have to imagine that other developers will follow suit.
Yes. I'm Villain writes in, what would be your top 5 recommended / favorite games of the PS4 and Xbox One generation? Now, normally we don't like to do these, but the follow-up, I think, makes it a little more understandable. I missed a lot of really good games due to financial reasons and having a few of my game systems break. I enjoy all genres and plan on playing Persona 5 when I'm done with Divinity 2. So instead of us all doing top 5, I'd say we combine 4 or 5 games just to kind of keep the show flowing here. One of them I would have picked would have been Divinity 2, so I'll spare you that one.
They said PS4 specifically?
PS4 and Xbox One generation.
Oh, okay, for both. All right.
Forza Horizon, if he likes racers. Any of them. They're incredible.
Yeah, those are really good games. I'm going to say if you're open to Persona, I don't know how far you need your dollar to go here, but I am a really big fan of Catherine. I think because it's very replayable, and
Catherine Full Body or whatever.
Yeah, Catherine Full Body, because the story I thought was really fun. There's tons of endings. I thought the gameplay was super unique. It's very puzzle driven, but given that you're open to all genres and you are planning on playing Persona 5, this is one that I wouldn't say it's a top of the generation, but it's replayable. It's different. It's fun, and it's a really good ride. I like that one a lot. I'm trying to think of others that would come to mind. Bloodborne. You said PS4. So
yeah.
Bloodborne, for sure.
I'm just trying to think of like defining, like, so sorry,
Ori.
I'm already.
Jesus.
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Ori. Yeah,
Sorry.
Ori.
Whether it be Xbox. Well, yeah, because he's got an Xbox. I was going to say Switch, but dude, Ori is, I would say Cuphead just because it's so fucking unique, but it's also really difficult. So a lot of people aren't going to love that. But Ori, yeah, hands down, you should definitely experience Ori, because that's probably one of only like 5 games in the entire world where I've ever felt anything. I'm just not that emotional when it comes to video games. But Ori did pretty well in that.
They said they missed the whole generation.
I think it sounded
I missed
like
a lot of really good games due to financial reasons and having a few of my game systems broken.
Oh, man. I mean, I feel like looking at, like, I don't know, God of War, the new one was really good. Horizon, really good. I'm just thinking of like blanket appealing to everybody type video games. You know what I mean?
Given that they're playing Persona 5 and Divinity, I'm going to try to cut a little bit deeper here and think of some stuff. I mean, if you're looking at Xbox, I would just say sign up on Game Pass, because that alone will give you a large library to dive into, and there's some good stuff. They have the whole Yakuza franchise there, pretty much, outside of 6 and 7. And I was about to say, Nier Automata is one game I would recommend. That is, it's so fucking good.
Very good.
I fucking love that game. But yeah, that's just that's a pool of titles we'd suggest to you. Hopefully you give those a shot and you enjoy those. As my dog continues to bark. Mike Fury writes in.
Difficult. I was just going to say, anybody who's listening, lists are almost impossible for us to do. And there's multiple reasons. It's because we review and we may still like a game, even though it's a shit game. You can still like it. You may not tell everybody go run and get it. It's like those top fives are so difficult. And then when they don't tell you what they've played, it's also difficult because you may end up giving 5 examples and they're like, oh, I played all 5 of those. Well, dude, I didn't know what games you played. So I'd just say for anybody listening, if you're going to ask for any kind of list, keep it to like 2 or 3 at the most. And then give us a heads up on like sort of what you're looking for. Because I want to steer them right, but you could waste a lot of time and then find out that, our suggestions aren't good for, whatever reason. Sounds for him, it was very general, which is good. But we get a lot of those questions.
Seemingly there was a lot missed, but
yeah, it sounds like almost everything was missed.
All right. Mike Fury writes in. First question we kind of answered, but I'll read it anyway, just to do diligence here. Keep it real with me, guys. How bad are Vampire Bloodlines 2 and Dying Light 2 looking right now? Both are my most anticipated games of the year, along with God of War Ragnarok. Well, we already talked a lot about Dying Light 2, and I don't think Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is in a better position. So enjoy your anticipation for God of War Ragnarok for the time being, and those 2 should be substituted with something else that's a little more imminent, exciting, and complete looking. Like Outriders. Number 2, not to sound like a hater, but do you guys know anyone who asked for or is even excited about the Golem game from Amazon? I forgot that shit existed. Have a great day, everyone. Oh my God. I forgot all about this game. Do you remember that? It's so interesting because Lord of the Rings is ripe for amazing games. They have Lord of the Rings Online. I think that's still running. You've got the Middle Earth, like Shadow of Mordor / Shadow of War, which I've been meaning to get to Shadow of War.
It's been fixed, by the way, Maddie, if you decide to play it.
I've heard that it's got a lot of changes where it was like almost a too little too late thing, but now it's been like 4 years where it's a good time for me to hop in with a pretty clean opinion of it. That's what I've been wanting to play for a while. But there was a period of time they used to churn out Lord of the Rings games, man. And
PS2,
now
PS3, Xbox 360, there were a lot of those gauntlet style fighters.
They had the Two Towers game.
That game was great.
And Return of the
Lord
King
of the
also.
Rings, Lego, like they were actually rolling out a shit ton of these.
War of the North. Did you guys ever play that one?
I was just gonna say, yes, I have. They had War of the North.
Awesome one.
They had RTS games. Like,
which was the RTS?
There was 3. Middle Earth Battle for Something was.
Battle for Middle Earth.
It might have been. Was it just general Battle for Middle Earth? Yeah. I
think so.
Middle Earth's seen a lot of titles when you really.
Oh, Lord of the Rings Conquest as well. That was a really good one.
This is funny. I just rewatched Lord of the Rings in 4K actually over Christmas break.
I saw your tweet. What did it say about? Was it talking about the Hobbit or something like that?
Oh,
you said we don't do something in this household.
Oh, I said we're a Lord of the Rings extended edition family, and quite frankly, we don't associate with people who prefer the theatrical versions.
That's what it was.
So, and we also
watching them either way.
We don't acknowledge the Hobbit even existing, which I just broke that because they're terrible. That's why, Maddie.
Okay, we're looking for a third host.
Maddie, you don't even watch movies.
I don't.
You said that.
I don't, but I have watched The Hobbit, and I think those are great movies.
Wow.
Great movies. Enjoyable. Just as
extra
enjoyable.
Slice of ham debate.
Yeah.
Let's
honestly.
do it. Let's go.
I'll have to rewatch all of them, and that's a project of its own.
Yeah, I was gonna say, see, in 6 years when he's fucking finished with 1.
Yeah, right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I know. That's the one thing I'm pretty solid on is that you're not a movie watcher.
Yeah, if you want to win any bet, just involve a fucking movie with it.
It's weird that you're not too.
Well,
it's still trouble, or it doesn't trouble me. It so confuses me.
I watched a lot of anime recently, though. I watched enough anime to accumulate like probably 20 movies.
But I mean, as a big Spider-Man fan, the idea that you're not like consistently watching the Spider-Man movies, the multiple Spider-Man movies, one of the longest running series of superhero movies now,
right?
Like that really, it just surprises me that that's not for you. I don't know why.
I've rewatched the Tobey Maguire ones a lot.
I like those.
I love Tobey. But
it's going to be so good having all them in one fucking movie. I'm sorry.
Know. It's going to be so cool.
It is. It's definitely the Expendables of fucking superhero movies. I can't wait.
Yeah. Into the Spider-Verse I've rewatched a couple of times as well. But yeah, it's
Have
few
you?
and far between. It's few and far between. Straw Hat Ninja writes in, hello, first-time patron here. Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us. I know you've talked about playing, Trails of Cold Steel.
Oh, no.
And I saw
knew
you
he was
playing the
gonna bring
third
this
one
shit
on
up.
your Switch. My question is, what made you want to try the series, and have you been interested in playing the older Trails in the Sky games? I'm sure Dustin will love to give his input as well, because I know he loves the Trails series as much as I do.
So Straw Hat Ninja is a member of the CLS. I broke. There it is.
There
the
it
Last
is.
Stand Media
There it is.
Discord. And he knows.
Wait, what's his name?
Straw Hat Ninja.
I think he was the one who was fucking trying to set me up for some stupid question yesterday, and everybody even warned me. Might have been him. People were like, "Dude, he's gonna set you up for a dumb question." I can't. I'll have to go back and look. You have some unique people in there, and not in a bad way. Before anybody freaks.
Yeah, there's some interesting characters in the Last
Some
Stand
interesting
Discord.
opinions.
Yes. Dude, these Trails fans, they're worse than Persona fans. Okay, and we're bad.
Yeah.
We are really, really bad, and they're worse. Maddie, I'll let you answer the question. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I agree entirely. I think Trails fans are a breed of their own, and they just need to be calmed down. They need to relax. Their game series is solid, but it's just not going to be as fucking popular for a while until it gets a bigger budget, and that's it. Going back to a game. I have a close
fans. I got what you're saying.
I have a close friend who's playing these Trails in the Sky games from, I want to say they're in the early 2000s is when they came out. And I know they're good games. Like, I think people generally like them more than Trails of Cold Steel. But that doesn't matter. I don't want to go back to these 2003 RPGs. You know, there's sometimes that, like, you know, Champions of Norath, for example. I was talking about that earlier in the show. Like, that's a game that you can pick up whenever because it's very simple at its roots. It's very much inspired by Diablo. But there are certain RPGs that just got worse with time. And I don't think Trails of Cold Steel was very much loaded with exposition, and I can't imagine that got better back then. Otherwise, it's a significant step backwards for the franchise. What made me want to try it, though, is I played and beat Persona 4 Golden, and you all know I love my Vita, so I was looking for more JRPGs to play on my Vita that were like Persona. And the number one recommended one I kept seeing was Trails of Cold Steel, which I found very weird because the game has like free time you can spend, and you can spend it with people and build your bond with them, but it's not like Persona at all otherwise. Like it is one mechanic from Persona, and it's not even one that's like strongly pushed forward. It's occasionally. It's mostly just a story game with a lot of combat. So that's why I ended up picking it up. I played the first two. I played the demo on my Switch, called it a day there, and I'll get back to the last two in the series whenever I feel like it. Right now, my eyes are on Fire Emblem Three Houses. I want to knock that off before I go to anywhere else. But anyway, thank you for writing in. Chris Cozy writes in with a pretty interesting question here. What are the chances of a new Lord of the Rings Conquest game in the next few years? Potentially something that alternates with Star Wars Battlefront. I don't think DICE is interested in that. I don't think they're interested in alternating something with Battlefront outside of Battlefield. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see them take that Battlefront kind of DNA and apply it to other games. Because they only just started to get it right like midway through Battlefront 2's life cycle, really, when they fixed everything. I mean, I thought the game... It's kind of like the conversation with Cyberpunk, where when I played it, I'm like, there's clearly something very good here. And I thought the same thing with Battlefront 2, but it's just its fucking progression systems and star card system was terribly broken. So I think we don't want to give them too much credit because in my eyes, they kind of just figured it out. So I don't think there's any chance you're going to see another Lord of the Rings Conquest game. So go get that old fucking game. Hold on to it. Don't let it go.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Back is killing me. What Conquest? I don't know. I don't remember this game at all.
It is a game from, I want to say 2009, and it is quite literally like Battlefront 1 and 2 from Pandemic, except it's by the same studio, except it's a Lord of the Rings game. It's very good. It's very fun.
But you're not shooting, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
bow and arrow. You could shoot. Yeah, you have different classes. So you have like a knight class, you have an archer, a mage.
And you're just like running around big arenas or big... a map.
Yeah.
Huh, okay.
Like
What's it called?
Battlefront, you're
Steam?
capturing objectives. It's called Lord of the Rings Conquest. I don't know if it's on
I
Steam.
just feel so weird having like no memory of this. Lord,
I played it a lot. I love these games. They're really fun. I would recommend them. I don't know if they've aged well, but
I'm looking at that right now. We're gonna look at probably the best reviewer on YouTube currently. I want to make sure people follow this channel. It's a small channel called IGN. Probably the most detailed reviews you'll ever see.
oh,
So
of
if you get a
course.
chance, they're small. Only have a couple million. Oh shit! I played this game.
Hell yeah. And you
It
fucking
didn't
loved
age
it, right?
well at fucking all. But yeah, I don't remember if I did love it, Maddie, but I absolutely have played that game.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
okay, gotcha.
I enjoyed it a lot. Probably because that was, I don't know, that came out in a time period where it kind of made sense for companies to take formulas and just pop them on IPs.
Oh, for sure. With the IPs, yeah.
Yeah, it's
sure.
a lot different nowadays. So I don't think that correlation's happening nowadays, Chris, where you're going to see DICE go, all right, it's time to make a Lord of the Rings game. That involves a whole different play set entirely, especially with how technology is nowadays. It's just, I would love to see it, but it's not going to happen, sadly.
Agreed.
Cryo Vault Soul writes in, Matt, Karak, and Dustin, why do you think Rockstar can't make Bully 2? The game has been canceled 3 times now. As a huge fan of the game who plays through its story at least once a year or so, it's become incredibly frustrating.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, they talked about this with I think the only answer is what they've actually stated, which is when looking at GTA 6, they didn't know when they were going to do it because how do you make satire of a world that's already well beyond what you can do in a game with satire? The world itself is crazier than the game. And they ran into this with 5, and they discussed they actually had issues with 5. They had to have discussions about how do you make the game crazier than real life already, and that was GTA 5. So now we're looking at GTA 6 and Bully 2, and I think with Bully 2, you're trying to do satire of kids going to school, where currently if you watch the TV show Shameless, 11-year-old kids are selling crank out of fucking bathroom stalls in school. Like, how do you make Bully came out at a time where, I mean, there was a little bit more innocence. There just was. Shit's really changed, man. And you could go back and have another, that character show up again, but I'm not 100% sure how that would work. But I think a lot of it's satire. You're trying to do satire, and it's a little difficult right now. And where do you put the timeline? How old's the kid? Because that's going to matter huge, man. How old the kid is, and what, private school. One of my friends went to a private school, and there was more fucking and sucking and blowing in that private school than there was in my public school. Like, it was crazy.
I have heard that. That's pretty, at least between us two, it's pretty consistent. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Because, dude, he told me, and I was like, wait, what? What? And he was all, dude, this shit was happening. Drugs, because you have rich parents, who leave and they leave their cocaine. You got 14-year-olds snorting cocaine. He's just like, Jesus Christ, man. And that was 10, 15 years ago, let alone now. So, yeah, I'll just tell you this. I want to see it.
Yeah, I was going to say, out of anything Rockstar has done, Bully has been my
Absolutely.
favorite. So, I think there's a couple things they could do gameplay-wise to separate it. You want to see maybe overhauled hand-to-hand combat. I think they were kind of up the right alley with some of the gadgetry, so to say, like the slingshot, the potato gun. I think nowadays with technology, you could carry that a step further. I think the issue really is that Bully worked in its time capsule because inherently with where tech was, you had to limit the size of the game, where nowadays the expectation with Rockstar is open world. You make it open world and you're running around with all these guns and things. You start to think of GTA. You're like, is this really Bully at this point?
That's true. It's true.
So Red Dead is so distinctly different, right? In its time period, it does separate itself inherently. It's really hard to do that with Bully. So that's why if Rockstar wants to shrink it down and make kind of a giant campus or a hub, that wouldn't make sense on today's hardware. It's just, I don't know how it could. Because it's possible. It's just going to feel like it's almost under-delivering. So I think they really just, if anything, got to lean really hard into what they give the player the quests they give them, and it's the means of traversal. It's like, well, we're going to build this big open world, but if we put cars in, they let you drive cars, that's going to be like GTA. But if we make them ride bikes all over this open world, it fits what the character is, but it can't fit the size of our world. So it's just, I think it's one of those things where when you're trying to fit the universe, I think it's tough. I mean, what do you think, Dustin?
I don't know so I've never played Bully before.
Oh.
How old are the kids in Bully? Like, how old is the main character?
14.
See, that's the thing.
They're
is
in their
that
teens.
Yeah, they're in early teens.
I feel like part of this is the fact that Bully, you guys were mentioning the fact that it was like a relic of its time. It's something that was made then. It can't be made now. And I guess that's kind of the precipice of the question. That's kind of what we're talking about here. But the limitation with the graphics on PS2, I feel like makes this game feel more fantasy, like more like a cartoon. So I wonder if making this game now where you have ultra high realistic graphics, if that crosses some kind of barrier of realism that would make people uncomfortable with 14-year-olds. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Dude, it was all about
innocent and shit.
It was your first kiss. It was like you saw your first kiss with what's Hopkins? Is it Billy?
Jimmy Hopkins.
Jimmy, thank you. I always get that fucked up. And just so you know, Dustin, it's not the first time they've run into uncomfortable. When Bully was originally created, it was play tested, and you were the bully. People were so uncomfortable with you being the bully, they switched it so that you were the good guy.
Interesting.
That was 15 years ago, because this was a PS2 game. So if they were already, as game testers and game players, uncomfortable with you being the bully, you're talking about now. It's like, what are you doing as a 14-year-old, and how do you make it feel real? I guess you could do a weird time frame, right? 1970s maybe, or something like.
Yeah, it would have to be a time frame thing for sure. And I mean, the thing is I definitely see an opportunity there for them to tell some kind of really impactful stories that could resonate with some people, but it might be that, like you said, that uncomfortability.
Did you guys do public schools?
Yeah, I did.
We all did public schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when you were 14? I'm going to be the oldest, so like my 14 might be different than yours, but it's pretty fucking boring too. Like, I mean, that's another. What if Bully 2 just has you go home and play Bully 1? That's it.
That'd be actually really awesome.
And run an influencer website and shit. Be like, hey man, get my TikTok. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, but like, I don't know about you guys. I mean, what would you do? I mean, now, and how do you tell a story there? They tell good stories, so they can do it, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's just I think it takes a lot more figuring out than even Red Dead, which I'm sure was tough on its own, right?
Yeah, for sure. Red Dead had some questionable stuff too. I mean, you guys are, well, you know, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but there's some piece of shit characters in that too.
For sure.
I just thought of something. Tell me what you think of this. This is for you, Matty. I was talking about the uncomfortability of the fact that we're dealing with children, teenagers, whatever. That's the case in Persona and a lot of anime games. And I didn't
even think of that.
When I thought of that, I think it kind of confirms the point I made, at least to me, that it's like Persona is clearly not, it does not look realistic, right? It's very anime. It's a cartoon.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that's what makes it acceptable to us. What doesn't make us I'll say mostly uncomfortable, because there are still things in Persona. As a huge fan of that franchise, I'm like, some of this teacher relationship stuff is kind of weird. But
like the first 10 hours of 5 are pretty fucked up.
Yes.
5 or 5 row. Doesn't matter which one you're playing. The first 10 hours are really fucked up.
That to me is just like interesting and good storytelling. It's fucked up, but it tells a story that's probably not too uncommon. I was referring more to your relationship with your homeroom teacher.
Ah, yes.
So
yes,
or what can be your relationship.
Yeah, I was
going to
say if you choose to pursue it. Yes, definitely not right.
I mean, there's a lot of homeroom teachers I would have banged. Now that I think about it.
Oh yeah, it definitely lets you live that fantasy for sure.
Yeah, but I also believe that a good majority of people who like Persona,
would bang
not who like teacher. It, well, that too, but I think there's a mystique to Japanese life, which there is not to Western life. And I think that if you start doing a Western one, then there's even more uncomfort. Right now, the honest truth is, man,
That's
you get
actually a
people
really good point, yeah.
who look at Japanese stuff and they're like, oh, there's a mystery there. No, not so much. I mean, I've talked to people, my wife being Chinese, and she can tell you to your face that, like, if you talk to some people, some, not just Americans, by the way, you'll get that all the time. Anywhere you go in the world, people will treat another race that doesn't speak their language natively as if they're in another world. Like, everything's mysterious. It's like, no, I take a shit just like you do. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we're all, we our words are weird, but if you came and saw 90% of what we did, it's exactly, we think the same thing. We're not mysteriously submissive as a race, you know, and all the shit, all the tropes. And I think that that probably leads into a problem with Bully as well, as you don't have tropes that are mysterious. Because Persona, I love Persona, I love Yakuza, but I'm going to tell you right now, man, both already got a little bit of heat. I believe that the heat is going to continue and not go away. You're going to see more and more people having issues with those kind of things, and it's going to become, I don't have an issue, by the way, but you are going to have more and more people being like, that's unacceptable. And we saw it with GTA too. There was a couple people who had issues with various things that happened there. But
my favorite part is that the Japanese, for the most part, do not care.
Yeah, no, that's,
and I love that.
And I would say a lot of other every nation, well, we don't care about guns as much as, let's say, another nation that cares about sex. You'll see it in our TV shows where we'll show violence. They'll be like, we don't show violence, but we show more sex. And you see that, and it's just a part of the different cultures accept different things.
What people have to remember is that a lot of these games are not made. I mean, they're made for game players, but they're made with a Japanese mindset. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that excuses some more heinous things, but that's what you have to keep in mind. You can't make demands in that situation. And in my opinion, it's like, I don't know.
It's almost like you are making a demand, but you're making it by proxy. You're like, find somebody who like over in the area who made it, or who's in the area that we're representing, and find somebody that also dislikes it. You're like, dude, that's so weird. It's 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon as a fucking complaint. And at some point, it's just like, just make the fucking game.
And some of them are looking for it too. Do you guys remember that
of course,
that Kotaku article where someone thought that the soundtrack, one of the songs that ended up in Smash Brothers from Persona 5, they thought that it said retard or something? Was that it?
I do vaguely remember that. Yeah, that was a thing for a while.
It's like, you're a fucking
it was because of
they were trying to say you couldn't say that.
No. The singer's accent made something sound like that word, and it was it was a whole article about it and stuff, and they were trying to like drag either the singer or Persona, and people were like, no, that's just her accent. She's clearly not saying that. Like, these are the lyrics. And I remember that being a thing for a while. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I have a question though. If it had been that, I don't know if the Japanese have an issue with certain terminology, because terminology changes. What's okay? That used to be an okay word, you know, like it was dropped all the time. Nobody, and over time, that shit changes. Let's say they had said that. Do we know in Japan, is that like as blacklisted of a word as it is here? Do you guys know?
I think Japan's, from what I've seen in games at least, and anime, I would say they're progressive in that sense, but I don't know how progressive they are in like same-sex relationships. I usually see them poking a lot of fun. They definitely poke a lot of fun at that. And that's one thing I think Persona, and I agree with it. I think they should catch some flack for that, because they don't, like, for a game that does have a lot about dating in there, I'm surprised that they don't have either play as a male or a female. That's another thing Japan does a lot, play as a male, just because they think inherently the male is more interesting. There's a lot of games you could list out. Like, I think Final Fantasy 12 is a good example, where you just play as Vaughn because he is a guy. That's it. And there's just a lot of situations, where I think they are behind in that regard. At least those types of games are. So I think they do deserve that flack for their lack of progression there. But that's just my 2 cents. Good question, though. Thank you for writing in, Sol.
Yeah, interesting question.
Zach writes in, hey guys, got a question I thought might lead to some interesting discussion. What's a good feature from a poorly received game or just a bad game that has been implemented in a subsequent game that has improved the quality of that game? Just because it's a bit of a mouthful, some context. While my opinion of Anthem is lukewarm, I bought it for $5, so at that price, it wasn't bad. I dug the flying, and my anticipation of the next Mass Effect has increased thinking about how the flying could be implemented into that. Too long, didn't read. New Mass Effect story with a bit of Anthem flying peppered in there. Whoa, Nelly. Okay, so have you ever played something that... I've played games that I've liked certain things, but other things didn't click, and I hope in the next entry it can evolve. Like, I will say Vampire is one of those games, right, where I hope they evolve that combat and keep the same dialogue and storytelling in the hub world. Like, I hope that's something that stays, but that wasn't like a bad game, right? I guess, I don't know, because I think of the like most recent bad games that come to mind for me are Godfall and Avengers. And I'm sorry, but those games to me were so awful. I didn't think they had very many redeeming qualities.
I think they're also average in their mechanics offerings, so that there isn't anything that you would want to see or that's special to them that would that you would want, that you would expect
Especially
to be surprising.
Godfall. It's just super.
Yeah, especially
average.
Godfall. Yeah, Godfall was quite literally the missionary sex of video games. It was so
average. Yeah,
it's dude. I was confused. I was playing a game when I played that game. There was no emotion, no connection to it was just like flatline the game, and then I turned it off. I was like,
dude, that's why a lot of people were like, when I made my worst games of the year list, they're like, how is this your worst game of the year? And I'm thinking,
because it's not.
I was gonna say it's, I would say you could argue Avengers was a worse game when it came out. It was in a worse technical state. It had so much wrong with it. But at least there were ideas where they were trying shit, even if there's shit I completely disagree with. Like, oh, let's make this live service. Godfall passionately did nothing. That's really hard to do. To be so passionate about being mundane.
The Usain Bolt of average, man. It was just like, man, we're rushing to average as quick as possible. And they did it.
And they did. And it's like, this is such an astounding feat. It actually makes me sick to my stomach. So I'm
a little bit... I don't know about you, a little bit. What's the term? Like, I sort of want to pat him on the back a little bit and be like, it's crazy that you guys put an entire game together without anything that I can remember. Like,
yeah. It's just
there's almost nothing. It's a vacuum. Yeah. Anyway.
It's really hard to answer this question because most games I dislike.
Yeah.
I don't have something I like about it because I'm very selectful when I say I don't like something. It's usually I see redeeming qualities in a product. Like, for example, and it's also being self-aware. Like, a game that I wasn't a huge fan of, but I know is a good game for a lot of people is Immortals Phoenix Rising. I understand why people love that game, but there were absolutely things that I think could be better in another entry. But I think that's just me, right? Like, I think for the majority of reviewers, players, people who bought the game, they were totally happy, understandably so, with what they got. So that's the other thing. It's like, that was not poorly received. It's just, it was poorly received from me. So it's really tough to say. It's a good question, but I don't know. Do you guys have a good answer for this one?
Not really. I think the one thing that came to mind to me is just the highly realistic schedules of people in Watch Dogs Legion, like their NPC system.
Oh my God, yeah. It
was really cool, but in a game that does not really appeal to me, even though I did. Well, I might need to go back to it because I dropped it because that was a game I got for free from
I like that game.
NVIDIA.
Me too.
And then it ran like shit. And I thought, I'll come back.
I remember you saying that when you got your graphics card finally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do remember. That was actually
dude,
one
that
of the
feels like fucking yesterday.
That
was like 3 months ago. That felt
it
like
was
yesterday.
3 months ago.
Time is fucked right now, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good point, though, about Legion. Like, I would actually say, even though I liked it, I know why some people... And I didn't like it as much as Matty liked it the most, but I get it. I think that's a good example. There was a lot in Legion that I was telling people, man, I wish Valhalla had this.
I would agree. And
I find myself... Cyberpunk, in fact, I mentioned multiple times.
NPCs in Cyberpunk are bad. It's like all of them were like, you like walk up to them, they're like, fuck you. And you're like, dude, I was just, like, literally, everyone hates me.
It should just be called NPs as non-players because they're not a character. There's no character in those NPC. Yeah. Fuck, man. I remember zooming in and seeing a guy, and it was like, his name was like Bill Nelson or whatever the fuck. And I was like, wow, this will be cool. And I followed him, and he did that thing where he went around the corner and then turned back around and went around. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, fuck. Nothing's happening. Like, nothing. There's nothing going on. So bad.
I watched a video. I think it was by Beat 'em Ups, and he showed this one NPC had I put it in quotes, a route, and he just went around the same block and got soda each time. He went around the same block. He just kept going back and getting soda. It was funny, but yeah, I hope that's something they try to tweak because it's pretty blatant over time. Thank you for the questions,
Legion's a good example. Yeah,
I was gonna say Legion's one that I would say as well, just because I did call it a hidden gem, like a dime. I called it a diamond in the rough. That's what it was, and it wasn't great. I would like to see Legion put choices, and I thought that surprisingly worked really well for Watch Dogs. Like they had a choice you can make in the mission, and it had a couple of outcomes, and I thought to myself, this is something that would work really well for this series going forward. I don't know. I kind of like when Ubisoft games do choice because they do their open world so well that having agency over how it reacts, like in a Valhalla, which we'll be talking about next, actually, it works really well for me.
Yeah.
Which does bring us into our next question. Vault 101 guy writes in, I just started playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla and was really excited when I heard that Asgard was something you could visit. When I finally got there, I was disappointed. Is there any location in the game you were excited about? It turned out to be disappointing. By the way, huge shout out to Maddie and Karak's new podcast, Defining Duke. Such a good listen. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I liked Asgard and Valhalla.
Fucking so did I. It's the only thing I liked about Valhalla.
Oh really? I dug the fuck out of that part though. Yeah, I thought I thought it was a pretty welcome surprise. I don't know. I've realized I appreciate the conversation for Valhalla because I can see it evolving where people are starting to really dissect what they liked and disliked, and it's kind of all over the place. Like I really liked the game. A lot of people really hated the game, and a lot of people are in the middle. And I think all thoughts are pretty reasonable for that game. But it's just interesting to see like someone who was disappointed with Asgard, which I thought was one of the, this is really cool kind of moments of the game because it reminded me of the World War I section in Syndicate. I thought that was one of the cool parts of that game. So kind of a callback to that there for me personally. But was there a location in a game you were excited about and it ended up being disappointing? I got one, and it's oh my God, what the Agents of Mayhem. You're in South Korea, right? And that fucking open world was so nice looking, but it was so underwhelming. That game was so average. It could have been so much more. And they were like, fuck Saints Row, we're not doing that. We're doing this thing here. This is going to be the thing for us. It's like, no, it's not. It just didn't work. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. Sorry to say it. But Agents of Mayhem, South Korea is a great setting for a game. And they tried it, and they fucked up because there wasn't shit to do. That would be my pick. Super disappointing.
My pick. So, okay, hold on. The question is worlds that we were excited for that ended up being disappointing, right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to have to put a slight asterisk on this because I don't know if I was excited for the world, but I was very excited for Final Fantasy 15. And the open world in that game sucks because it's just nothing. It's just like they were very true. They're like, hey, this is a game about a road trip with your boys. And it's like, you spend so much time just fucking sitting there in the car listening to boring banter. And I'm like, hey, this is like a real road trip with the boys. But I don't want that in my Final Fantasy game, which, I have conflicting feelings about that game.
That is a game that I went sour on pretty quickly. I loved that game when it came out, and I kept coming back to it. And each time I came back, I was like, this sucks. This isn't that great. I'm not liking it.
I liked it, but I didn't think it was amazing, but I liked it.
I like the story of that game.
Yeah, but then even the story, when I started to see like, oh, it needs a patch to fix this part of the story. And
true that, yeah.
And then like the episodes added so much more that I was like, should this been a part of the base game? I don't know. It's like one of those few examples where the support actually kind of fucked the game up in my eyes.
I will say, I mean, I don't want to diss on it, but it's the only answer I have. Originally, the plan was Cyberpunk, AR, VR, virtual reality, and all you fucking do is hack 3 lines of numbers or 5 or whatever, and on a lock somewhere. And you're just like, seriously, that's it? And I was hoping for, a VR world or something. Just that entire thing was disappointing. There wasn't more. But I think most of the time when I go to a place, I'm more surprised because I purposely try to not know, about what might be in a game. I will agree with you, Valhalla. I think he's wrong, man. Valhalla, dude, when you go to that spot, that's so good.
I think it's one of the bright spots, at least.
I do, personally, yeah.
All right. Time to blaze through the remainder of our questions here. Empty and Made writes in, Dustin, I think we already know this answer for you.
Okay.
Did you guys get anything for Christmas that excited you? That was your whole intro, man. You were all about the Christmas get up.
I can add one thing though. But you guys go ahead. Go ahead.
Karak, did you get anything for Christmas? The wife treat you? Your friends treat you? You treat yourself even?
Yeah, we were talking about video games where like you buy your own video games, so getting one isn't crazy. So like yeah, I would say I mean I got a couple things here and there, but nothing really, nothing to, I do Christmas. I'm more of a giver. Kind of, I love to like get. I love Christmas, but I definitely outdo because I spend like a lot. Yeah, and I'm always excited. Yeah, I think my mom and dad bought me of all things Hero Clicks, the miniatures I like so much. That's awesome. My mom and dad usually try to go crazy and buy me something terrible. Like one time, my mom, for reasons I still cannot figure out, bought me Hellraiser for Christmas. Now, admittedly, I like horror movies, but I'm like, Christmas? What? Like what? It just made no sense. And by the way, I already own Hellraiser. Like it was one of those times when your mom shows that she just doesn't know you. But this time they did give me that, and I was pretty excited. Like I love that game, so nothing really huge.
Yeah, I got a lot of things I was really excited about this year. I'm trying to think though. Like I'm wearing my new Kame House hoodie,
cool.
that my parents got for me. Yeah, they got me the manga that I showed at the beginning. Like they got me a lot of little things, a lot of clothes. They got me a new monitor. Very cool. Sitting right here.
Oh shit! Really? You got for your PC? You got a new monitor? Oh damn.
Yeah, nothing like high end. I didn't want anything high end because it's a home. So it's like an LCD monitor, but like for me, that's perfectly fine because it's still like a 24-inch one, which I love it. Like it takes up way less room at the base, and it's just a nice curved screen. I adore it. So yeah, they did a lot of things I really needed, like this couch pillow thing where the tablet sits on it for our show. That was supremely helpful. I sit in bed a lot naturally, and so those couch pillows that have like the kind of armrests on them.
Yeah, the puffy. What's it called?
I thought they were called husbands.
Are they really?
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that, but I know
let me verify that.
I've got one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so normally they're these kind of like fluffy things that you sit on, and eventually they cave in from all the pressure. So my mom got me a Tempur-Pedic one, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is a life changer." It has.
Let me check this out.
It is firm. It is supportive. It is. It changed how I sit in bed. It is because normally I sit with my neck kind of like curved a little bit, and so that was one of my favorites, man. I mean, yeah, I could probably go on, but I end up sounding spoiled. But yeah, my parents love to go crazy.
Right. Oh no, he's not. Husband pillow is the ergonomic one.
Okay, yeah. So I was looking at Tempur-Pedic's website right now.
What's it called on there? Because I want to look this thing up. I want to buy one.
I would type in Tempur-Pedic, like not couch pillow, but I thought that's what it was called, like a couch pillow. I don't know, but it is.
I'm so glad you found a good one because
it is. Okay, it is legit, and I've used it since Christmas Day. Like I put it in I unwrapped it. I was like, I went, holy fuck, and I picked it up and brought it straight to my room. I was like, this is being used tonight.
Awesome.
Like it's not sitting by the tree. So
and I suppose that helps you with reading because that's one of my major issues is I want to read in bed, and laying down with a tablet or a book is very uncomfortable after a period of time.
I agree.
So
it helps a lot, especially because the way the armrests are positioned.
You didn't find it, Dustin?
No.
Yeah. Shoot. Okay. I'm having a hard time here finding
I will ask
Send
my
the
mom.
link, bro.
I will ask my mom, and I will hook you all up with your own Tempur-Pedic couch pillows,
dude. Because if it's sturdy, which is the major thing, I'm on this.
I'm telling
ASAP.
You, yeah.
So
I used to have one, and then my brother just needed something to fill the gap between his bed and his window. I was like, here, take it. I was like, I don't fucking.
How fucking old are we? We're celebrating a pillow. Wow.
I mean, look, dude.
I'm giving up. I'm taking a Viagra.
It's sitting right there. It's sitting right there. See that? This little
okay. Now I see it. Yeah.
Poofy. Yeah.
It is
awesome.
It is legit, man. It is. I love it. I was just playing my Switch in bed before the show because I was like, let me give this another good whirl. And so I did, and it was fantastic. So that amongst a couple of games, my mom got me Rim. She got me Fire Emblem because I just send her a list, and then I'm like, you don't got to, but if you want to,
Right.
because she's like Karak, she's a huge giver, so she's like on me to send her lists, and then I get the spirit, and I'm like, okay, now I'm buying everyone a ton of shit, and so we just load up our Christmas tree. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Real
sorry.
quick, Matt, I have to share this because it's such a weird gaming thing for me. I got Holly an arcade 1-up of Ms. Pac-Man.
I saw that shit. That was awesome.
Dude, I'm addicted to that shit. I bought it for her because she loves Ms. Pac-Man. And before this, I was like, Ms. Pac-Man's all right. I'm fucking addicted to that thing. I'm obsessive about Ms. Pac-Man in my score now.
The arcade 1-up machines, if I had more room for them, I would get more. I have the Turtles in Time one. That is, anytime I'm waiting for a video to render, I'm like, flip that on. Time to play. It's so fun. Yeah, man, I love those things. It brings you back to a simple time, and yet it's just a great time killer.
Dude, Ms. Pac-Man, it's a lot of depth in that game, surprisingly, that I never realized until I started to really play it over and over.
That's so funny. That type of gift you get for someone else and ends up being a gift for yourself.
Yeah, I knew I would play it. I just didn't think that I would be obsessed with it.
What was her reaction when she opened it?
Dude, she was pumped because, I mean, she's like, she remembers specifically going to this one, I think it was like a restaurant, somewhere that she would always go with her mom, and she'd have to wait, and so her mom would let her, she would play Ms. Pac-Man on an arcade. So that's her favorite arcade game. Like, she's upset, like, loves it. And so she didn't even know it existed as an arcade 1-up machine. So it was like a double like
big
surprise that it existed and that I got her one. And so, yeah,
awesome.
It was cool.
That's the best part about Christmas now as we grow up. It's kind of seeing people's reactions for things that, like my mom 3 months ago, she was just like, my brother's been using his iPad to read, and like they have access to the New York Public Library through there. It's pretty cool. And I'm just like, noted. And so I got her an iPad for Christmas.
Nice, dude. That's a sweet gift right there.
Yeah, because she knew when she opened it, she knew the conversation. For her, I think that meant more than the iPad. She knew I listened.
Right.
Which I always try to do. So, yeah. Great question. Thank you, Empty and Made. Ben Jam writes in, I don't know if you guys discussed this yet, but what is something you want to accomplish this year, plus something you're looking forward to this year? So, gentlemen, as we set our eyes on 2021, we have a few questions left. What exactly are you hoping to accomplish this year? See, it's interesting. 2020, I hit with a vengeance. I was very determined. And usually, I got to have a warm-up for like 2 months. Once we hit March is where I think I really hit my stride because I got to get the cobwebs out from the break. And usually, there's no huge game news that's demanding me to like pop out. So it's usually coasting and coping with the fact that YouTube CPM is going to fuck me for 2 months. But then March hits and it's like, okay, it's time to have some fun again. It's time to have a career again. So this year what my goal is, I'm trying to hit with that same level of, I don't want to say intensity, but that same work ethic without fucking myself over. I think I overworked myself last year big time. And so my goal is to be a lot more organized and disciplined with my work, where I can maintain that same grind without pushing myself so beyond that I was like exhausted for days after I had started my break until I finally caught up with sleep and rest and all that. Like you can actually see the bags under my eyes are like gone. They're actually gone. So I've been getting good rest, ladies and gentlemen. It's been nice. And I want to keep that. I've realized I've kind of been working in a not smart way. So that is something I want to accomplish this year. Good sleep.
Go for it, Karak.
Karak wants to learn how to love The Witcher 3 on Switch. I'll just say it for him.
Impossible! I do agree with you, though. I rolled into 2021 with the expectation that there was a good chance we wouldn't make it to 2021. I didn't really put a plan together. I was like, I'm just happy to be here, man. I'm happy we didn't blow the fucking planet up.
Yeah,
I don't really have one. For me, it's definitely, I mean, I teach students. I would say mine's not YouTube. Mine's like at all. Mine's, especially because this year doesn't have any huge games like a Cyberpunk, right? So there's other big games, obviously, but I just mean it's not that stupid anthill frenzy that we get. So mine's
kind of
probably
a good thing too.
It's a very no. Sorry, I should make sure that's clear. I think it's an awesome thing. So mine's like personal best for lifting. I like running, so personal best for running. Like I like the physical stuff. Personal best for like martial arts stuff like that. I would say mine are more. I would like to figure out a way to get friends together. Maybe not physically, I don't know, but like we use Discord, which doesn't feel the same. I've been looking at technology that's not necessarily super cheap, but like, conference room technology for board game nights. And like, what do you do? Because I think we're stuck in this now. Like, I thought we were stuck last year, but most people didn't believe me. But I think we're stuck in that the world will never go back exactly like the way everybody assumes, especially with cleanliness and shaking hands and all this stuff.
So like even if you could take the mask off, you'll probably like wipe out every room.
You're absolutely right. And like, so one of my big goals is like, how do I make it so that I can still get together with friends and do all that kind of stuff and feel somewhat more personally connected? Because we've been doing Discord board games and I'm like, it's fun, but I still need a camera, just like you and I, where you used to be like, hey, we're going to do MP3 today. We're going to do audio. And I'm like, hey, can we do camera too? Because I sort of need to see your face. Like I need to see the reactions. So that would be mine. Just figure out a way to get everybody together.
For me, it's interesting, Maddie, because I watched one of your videos where you were saying how 2020 was such an awful year for so many people, but it was a conflicting feeling because it was such a rewarding year professionally for you, right?
Yeah.
That's 2020 was the year that I finally felt like I got to a place that I've been trying for half a decade to get to, as far as like having a career in the games industry. Like March of last year, I finally left my old job where I was editing dance recitals and stupid shit that I didn't care about. It was a great job.
Shit.
No, do not miss that at all. And honestly, I'm wondering if I would have lost my job because of COVID. So, but I don't know. So it was weird because 2020 was the year that I finally made it to the point of sustaining myself through games industry related stuff. And so 2021 is like, okay, I made it here. What now? Especially with the rebrand of, Colin's Last Stand becoming Last Stand Media. There's like a huge new level of like ownership for me, right? Like before I'm still working for Colin. Obviously, Colin owns the company. He's the CEO or whatever. But like now that the company has changed and I'm the executive producer, it has a different feeling. Now I feel a lot more ownership. Obviously, I had a lot of pride in the products and how we operated, but now it's like, what can we really do?
It's bigger.
Yeah. So I guess it's weird. And I'm as two other guys that make content, I'm sure that you're like me and that you are never ever fucking satisfied, and it is the best and worst thing because you are constantly working.
Oh, dude. Can I just say, I literally had 4 videos underperform recently after like a month and a half of really good performance, and I was very upset for a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
And I had to like collect myself. I was like, I'm such a piece of shit. I was like, that's so fucking stupid. But it's because I really think it's because of YouTube's algorithm. It's because those 4 videos can send the fucking fear of God through you. You're like, oh my God, they've taken me out of the algorithm and I am fucked. Until you see that repeat of like strong performance, you're like, I'm fucked.
Right.
It's so weird. If it wasn't up to a bot, I'd feel a lot better. But that is not how it is, so you got to just accept it. But I feel you on that. You always want more like greedy.
No,
there's a degree of uncertainty always.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's a greed thing. It's not like I need more money. I need to succeed.
Yeah,
company succeeds so I can be rich. Not like that. It's like, I don't know. I just, like a few years ago, just having a job, like in my mind, I probably would have said like, man, if I had a job in the game industry, that would be enough for me. Then I wouldn't have to hustle constantly. And then you get the job and then it's like, oh, okay, well,
hustling constantly.
Yeah. And now it's I want the next thing. I want the next level of success or whatever you want to say. It's just like,
yeah. And you got to like almost control that, right? Because it's like the desire to be more, but like you don't want it to go to your head ever. That's the thing I've always tried to maintain through all of this is like, like most high school kids, I was like a fucking dickhead. And I grew out of that as I entered the YouTube space. And so, you'll look at a video of me from like 2013 or 2014, it's a totally different person, man. And so, you know, you keep moving those goalposts, and I think we're all at the point now where we got to learn, like, okay, just kind of, it's okay to just keep progressing with what you have. Like, we worked so hard, and really all of us in this last year, to establish some type of foundation between our shows, this new Xbox podcast, what Last Stand Media is doing, you know, what I'm doing on a daily basis on my YouTube channel, what Karak's doing with the reviews, you know, managing that it's always like you're looking for the next project, but it's like what we offer now can definitely be enough for a while, right? Before you look, but we're so quick to turn the page. It's a really common thing in our field.
Yeah, it's always what's like you work so hard to get to a point, and then it's instantly what's next. That's literally what I was thinking today. I was like, okay, so we got Duke running, and Sacred is on video. Like, okay, what's next?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Just let it breathe for a second, you know.
Well, that's the thing. It's good that you know that, right? It's good that you have the mindset of hungry. Like, I want to know what's next, which I think is good. All of us share that, but we're smart enough to know, let it breathe so the audience can enjoy it. Because if you move too fast, then they're like, see ya, I'm out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, it is a.
I will say one thing. Even though I said all mine was physical and stuff, you guys did remind me of something. I don't know if this is a personal. What did we say? Personal.
It could be anything. He said what you want something to accomplish this year, or something you want to accomplish this year, plus something you're looking forward to, which we've kind of.
I would like to see the review videos. Review videos are fine. I would like to see the side content occasionally do better on mine. So, like, I'll do something random and it'll do amazing, and then I'll do something I put time into, and I'll be like, "What the fuck?" Like, nobody like it's never been done on YouTube or something, and 4 people watch it. And you're like, and sometimes you think your own subscribers, you're like, where are my own subscribers? Like, where are these people? Like, they didn't show up. You feel like you went to a party, and the party has been going every weekend, and everybody's been showing up. And then you go to the next party, and none of them show up. And you're all, hello? It's like an echo chamber.
I get that. Yeah, for sure. And then you don't want to experiment all of a sudden. It
causes you to like sort of go, man, what do I need to do? I need to do the video review, because I know a review will do awesome. So I was like, should I just continue doing the reviews? But reviews are 40 hours minimum for just playing the game.
Yep.
Let alone deciding what you're going to say, fucking editing. That's why I was asking you about the, you know, like editors and like trying to figure all that out.
That helps a lot. Getting an editor has
I'm sure it
a
does.
lot.
I'm sure
it does make a difference. That was one of the best choices I made this past year. Was
it?
Finally just saying I'm done editing my content. Not because I don't want to, but number one, injecting new ideas into the edits. Like both Josh and Kopi, who helped me edit videos, have been like immensely fucking helpful, because they've just thrown like, what if we did this with the skit instead? Like normally it's just all in my head, so I'm limited by my own. What's my safe space? How far do I want to go?
I'm definitely going to have to do that this year.
And I'm just, I mean, that's the thing. The only time it's tough is during review season, because you don't want to spoil the game for them. And I'm playing the game plus making time to edit all of the content and
sometimes you want to say, that's why I asked you, because I was like, what if I want to say something and I want to show very specific footage, but I don't know where it is, you know, because I've got 8,000, like, dude, I have over 1 terabyte for just one game. That's why I was asking you about the size of videos.
Yeah.
And all that.
For me, it just takes a little more mental awareness of like what I did, like Cyberpunk. What I did was I would just hit the record button, and once something interesting happened, I would usually end the recording and quickly tab out and just name it. And I'd name it like Side Quest 1, you know, something like that. So then you just, you know, what happens is like Josh just tells me, yeah, it's like plug and play. I just kind of, I look for the file name of the thing. Like when you start talking directly about something, I assume you have sent me the file. So he just looks through. But he's very attentive. I give Josh so much credit for that. Like he will watch my gameplay, tab through it, lay eyes on it first, then he'll edit. Because there'll be things that I have, like, I'll mention in passing that's in the middle of 2 hours of gameplay. And he'll put it in there. And I'm like, dude, how the fuck did you, like, how did you find that?
That's funny.
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, he's really good. All right. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 questions left. Can fly right through them. One of them is from Mac the Knife. This is the year of Dying Light 2, gents. Hot damn, I'm excited. Now, this was a couple of hours ago as we post this, which is kind of funny because everything is indicated this is not the year for Dying Light 2. So anyway, number one, Think Dying Light 2 would transition to next gen only based on the ambition of the game and Techland going for a dark year? This is actually a question. Do you think this? I know the install base for sales is lower for next gen games, but I feel like that's a game that current gen consoles will hold back. Might be one of the first next gen games to showcase the power of new consoles. Now, if we're going based off what we saw a couple of years ago, I kind of agree with this because there was a lot of interior exploration, like outside open worlds to insides, parkour, choices that change the world. I can understand this idea because it's a lot of us thought with Cyberpunk, but Cyberpunk ended up sitting on prior gen consoles. And so I understand this idea. I think it's fair to say, but what do you gents feel?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't. Is there gameplay out for this game?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's just hard to trust now because it's been so long, right? Like,
Right.
there's just been so much silence.
I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that would be the first example because I think that we'll probably see some stuff.
Technically, Demon's Souls Remake is, right?
I think that game could have run on last gen at 30 FPS with some modifications, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Sorry. I meant at its level, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely could have.
As far as
technically any game could be squeezed down, right? But
yeah, that's the thing now is that games are so modifiable that you can put Witcher 3 on Switch and it's a pretty good experience.
Yes. Yes, it is. I fucking love that shit.
Damn, that game, Switch game, best game of all time on Switch. Fuck off, Nintendo. CD Projekt Red's got it. But I feel like I just don't know what do we mean when we want like a true next gen? Is it like, I think he said going in and out of buildings and stuff like that. And
at least for me, it's like the things that are typically sacrificed, which I keep going back to it, which we saw in Cyberpunk though. In Cyberpunk, the main character is voiced. And so because of that, there are clear drawbacks in the choices you can make. Because for everything your character says, someone has to respond and the world has to respond, and you have to make branching dialogue for those potential responses that may never be seen. For me, next gen is, in that regard, those are no longer sacrifices. You were able to make that big open world, that do everything game, and still have the branching choices that you could maybe see in a game like Wasteland 3. Not to its extent, but a level of branching choice that is not an illusion. So for me, it's the idea of next gen is the lack of sacrifice. Like the not pulling back, right? Like that feeling you don't get of, man, this action would be so nice if it was in 60 FPS. It's like, it looks good and it delivers on the frame rate kind of thing. You know, it's your cake and you eat it too. That's what next gen in my head is. But
yeah, I feel like even though maybe they're not announced, I think we'll see some games potentially like that later this year. You know, I mean, this is at the weird point of the year where it's so early in January and there's still so much that's going to be announced and released that we don't even know about. So
isn't that exciting?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is exciting. I mean, the big question is that how many games were not announced and supposed to come out this year and due to COVID now will not. I'm wondering if that will start to feel a lighter year because of that. You know, some of those announcements maybe don't show up till next year now, but
yeah, I think that and Cyberpunk, like people don't want to be the next Cyberpunk. So if they haven't announced their game, they're probably triple checking and going like, is this going to happen this year? Are you sure? Okay, we will now show it. You know, that kind of thing. I think you're going to see a lot. I think, yeah, the first half of the year is probably going to be dead. I think you're going to see a lot of late bloomers, so to say.
Yeah, maybe that game is Starfield. You know, maybe not. I don't know.
Well,
you think it's coming out this year, right?
It's funny you mention that because question 2 is what are the chances we'll get Starfield this year? I'm thinking 50% at best. I do think this is the year. The reason I say that, though, people were like, or not people, a couple people were like, wait, Maddie, you said that last year. I said this last year before we even knew. It was 2019. In the winter of 2019, I said 2020 would be the year. This was before a pandemic existed. My guess is 2 things. That since I thought 2020 was the year, and then the pandemic happened, I was like, there's no way Bethesda's doing it this year. They did not. I think because of how much Microsoft has talked about Starfield since its acquisition, they probably know, they do know more than us about Starfield. And I imagine that game is further along than people realize. So that is point number 1 as to why I think it's happening this year. Point 2 is, let's be real, the longer they take on this, the longer Elder Scrolls 6 takes, which is their real moneymaker. Although a new IP is tremendously exciting, and for me, as exciting as Elder Scrolls 6, I understand why people want the next thing after Skyrim, and they deserve it. Anyway,
do they though?
What do you mean? Do they?
Do Bethesda fans deserve this next game? Talking about people like you, Maddie. No, I'm just.
No, I mean,
I'm being a dick.
I am one of them. I am one of them. But yeah, it's really just that I feel like the time is now. And the other thing, third point, and I'll shut up about it, is I do feel like with Cyberpunk, Bethesda is going to kind of ride the silence as long as possible. So it probably right now, optics would suggest Bethesda is not releasing Starfield this year. But I genuinely think because they have been burned by Fallout 4 in a couple of ways, despite how well it did for them financially. I think creatively, Todd Howard has suggested in a lot of interviews, like, hey, we definitely, like dialogue, he talked about how it underdelivered. So, I think they're going to ride the silence, and so it's not going to look like they're going to reveal it until one day they just come out with a tweet and go, we're doing this. See us on this date. All right. We're going to try to wrap this thing up. Dustin, this one's for you. It comes from Never.
Hey. All right.
Dustin, could you please give us some insight and the thought process behind buying the Dr. Pepper cotton candy, including the part when you put it in the glass of water and drank it?
Well, so the Dr. Karak, did you see this at all?
I saw the question today, but I didn't know what the thing was.
I still have it downstairs. Do you guys want to see it?
I'm going to pass.
Okay.
That thing looks like a monstrosity.
I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with it. I want to see if it's flammable now, if I can light it. So the Dr. Pepper cotton candy came from...
smoke it?
Holy shit, Maddie. Now we're talking.
You said light it. I was like, are you going to smoke it? Because that's you're going to smoke cotton candy from Dr. Pepper.
We may be able to find the cure, not only for COVID, but every disease through the Dr. Pepper cotton candy. No, that was something I saw when I was at Family Video for their closing thing, and I was like, this looks horrifying. I must own it. And then it's just like, you open it up, and there's this just like pink log of...
Did you put your hands on it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I put it in my mouth. Maddie?
That's true.
I tasted it.
My question with this was, you picked up the bag, and when I saw the first picture that you posted of the bag, I'm like, oh, it's a bag of like powder, you just dump it in, right? But then I saw, obviously, the picture afterwards. You guys got to go to Dustin's Twitter profile and see this. It's like you said, it's like a fucking... It's like just meat in there. Dude. So when you picked up that bag, did you feel like the weight of this thing just kind of like fall to the other side of the bag, and you're like, there's something in here that is not right?
It's just like condensed cotton candy. I mean, like, that's the thing. When I cut it with the knife, it kind of expanded a little bit, almost like
okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. It was one of those things where just one thing led to another. Like, I opened it up, and then it looked like this perfect loaf, so I thought, why don't I cut this? And then I ate a piece of it, and it was not very good. And I noticed that, like, it got... I don't know if it was like I took a bite, and I noticed it got really dark where my spit was on it. And I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I put that in water. And then shit happened, man.
Yeah. Go look at the Twitter thread. It is, for those who are listening, it is...
Family Video retweeted that, too.
I saw. That was hilarious.
It was awesome.
That's cool.
All right, two more, and then we'll skedaddle. Mafatcock writes in, and he puts in parentheses multiple cube gang in his Discord name. So we've gotten this far. We're resetting for 2021. We're gonna find a new thing to argue about. I think the cube thing has been done to death. We're gonna move on. I think The Witcher 3 on Switch was a good start for a debate, and we're gonna see what happens in future patron questions and where the audience takes us. Happy New Year's, guys. All right, how long do you guys take to take down Christmas decorations? It's always January 1st in this household.
Yeah, for me it was just before. No, it was January like 2nd. On this year though, for some reason, like Christmas, I guess it'd be December 26th or 7th. I was ready to get rid of them. I was just like, it was mainly a space thing because the tree takes up where there's normally a chair, so that chair then goes somewhere else in the living room. I was like, I just don't want this setup anymore. What about you, Karak?
What was the question again?
How long do you take to take down your Christmas decorations?
I don't take them down.
Ever? You just leave them up year-round?
I don't really put them up or down. My wife does. So I would say if she takes them down whenever. She leaves them up for months sometimes, and then sometimes
That's awesome.
takes them down.
I'd love
It's
to
just
give
sort
a-
of all over the place. Yeah,
I'd love to
because
give
the
a ride
Christmas
by
tree is full
Karak's
up.
house like that one year and just, the winter
Well, the
decorations are
icicles
still
have been
outside.
out for 2 years. Yeah, we have blue icicles. Those are what we use to light our front porch. So those haven't gone. Yeah. So technically
funny.
we do have those, and those are definitely Christmas. Christmas
Yeah.
icicles, I think is what they're called.
Yeah, I feel that. I take mine down pretty. Well, I still have this little tree next to me. I got to get rid of that, but otherwise everything goes. January 1st. All right, last question of the show. Thank you guys so much for writing in. We wanted to make sure because we lapsed on an episode last week and then with Patron questions, and we just want to make sure you were all caught up. So now we move into our last question. Grade 851 writes in, I just upgraded my keyboards from membranes to mechanical with Cherry MX brown switches. Early on, the tactile click isn't as noticeable as I would have thought, but it still feels and sounds quite nice to me. The most noticeable benefit so far has been the build quality, and extra heft feels so much nice. It is like the difference between the DualShock 3 and DualSense. The latter just feels so much better in my hands. Do you guys have any kind of special keyboards or mice preferences? Arrows and number pads or something super compact with just basic keyboard keys. I need my number pad. Cheers. See, I'm very simple. I'm a simple man. Like every PC player is always about the ins and outs and the colors and the switches and all that shit. And I'm just like mechanical keyboard. That's it. Gaming mouse with numbers on side. That's it. So I'm a very simple man. I'm easy to please in this department. I'm sure you guys could give more educated answers if anything here. Because I have the Rocat mechanical keyboard, and that has a number pad on the right of it. So if that's what you're looking for, look at that.
Yeah, I have a
Is that
Corsair.
the Mafia one?
Yes, that is the Mafia one.
I apologize. I just wanted to bring up that was the only thing in the entire history of the channel that I've kept from a company.
Yeah,
it's the best keyboard.
same.
And I'm a membrane $5. It can be a 99-cent keyboard. I don't give a fuck. And I never have. But whatever's going on in this keyboard is awesome.
Yeah, it's legit.
A1 legit. Yeah. So sorry. I just wanted to say that. Yeah, it's a great keyboard. Rocat. I don't even know that. Do you even know what it is, Matty? Because I don't even know what it is. Like numbers.
It just says Rocat on it, but
it just says Rocat. Whatever it is, the fucking thing is sweet.
Because I am on the bottom rung of the influence ladder for these companies. And I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I'll get socks, or I remember CD Projekt Red sent me fucking Rockstar Energy. I'm like, cool.
We got the banana, the cat.
Yeah, I got the banana for Prey. Yeah, I just I've gotten some weird fucking shit that I just not that I got to use everything, but I definitely don't go crazy about. So to get a mechanical keyboard was pretty nice because it definitely is really good and it has stuck.
I had a developer give me an air plant in a glass globe at PAX. And it was cool, but I was
you talked about that because
did I talk about it?
Back, right?
You
did. You told me. It might have been you and me. I don't think Matty was here for that podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You were telling me how the fuck am I supposed to get this back to my thank you, but this is
I did get the air plants home. I think that we threw away the globe because I was like, I'm just not risking this in my luggage. I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you imagine that shit?
Yeah. But as far as keyboards, I actually am kind of intrigued by getting a better keyboard. I have a Corsair keyboard that has Cherry MX brown switches in it and it has special customizable keys. Their software is terrible.
Shit.
It's
their
bad.
software is shit.
I wish I would have known that before I bought it, but I've got it to a point where it works for what I need, and it was like $100. So I'm going to use it until it dies. But at that point, I might get something crazier. But it has the number pad on the side. So,
so
the number pad or the G? The G. Do you mean the number?
Both.
Just the numpad? Yeah, I like the numpad. I don't necessarily need the G. What do you call them? The macros, I guess.
Yeah, I have those set for editing.
I need the numpad though. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I could definitely see for editing that would I should probably do that.
I have a key set to make cuts and then a key that that will ripple delete. So,
bro, you have not made the step like I have to voice command.
Voice command editing?
I use voice command editing for everything, yeah.
Just
So I'll
like
say
your
cut,
split.
cut, split, cut, ripple, cut, ripple. It's the greatest fucking thing in the world. I use voice command for everything, Dustin. I bought that $5 program, and I use that shit like nobody's business. I have Windows stuff. You should try it. It's $5, man. It will blow your mind. Like you can, for example, you can do macros and say save file, name file, blah, 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 and just boop, 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 boop.
Did you like the connect voice commands for Skyrim? Do you remember that? Where you could say Fusro Da and then it would do it in the game?
Fusro Da, right? Yeah. I love voice commands, but not that. I did like did you guys ever do the Tom Clancy End War? End War had full voice commands on the Xbox. So you could be shooting, you'd be like, you could command your spider bot. Oh, yeah, I think Vegas did as well. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
Damn.
But anyway, yeah, voice attack, man. You need to try it. It's $10 or $5, I think, 5 or 10. You should try it just to see if you like it. It's
that's intriguing.
It's helped a lot of shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is episode 284 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. We thank all of the patrons for writing in. Dustin, it says right now you're playing Dragon Quest 11.
That's Holly.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I think my friend noticed, and they're like, Dustin's playing Dragon Quest 11. I'm like, no way, that's Dustin.
No, Holly fucking loves that game. She's having a great time. Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I almost envy her in a way.
I got to try that.
Well, with that, it's time for us to wrap up. Hopefully next week's a lot more interesting on the news front, but we did manage to make it entertaining here in the patron questions section. So we thank all of you for writing in and improving our show each and every week. And gentlemen, any final words outside of the hashtag before we wrap up?
Final words.
Hashtag gotta get some fucking food.
Oh, dude, I'm starving right now.
I had a migraine for 2 hours. It went away. That's how long we've been doing the podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say,
man. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes. And I'm like, dude, we got to go. My shitter's going to explode. I'm getting old, man. My back hurts. It's like crazy how long this was.
I know, right? This one, I think it's because it's been a while. We were in such a 3-hour routine.
Well,
like, my body just
started talking about something. I fucking tuned out. When we were announcing what we started playing, you went for 37 minutes. I don't even know what you were talking about.
What?
Whatever game. Yeah, when we started talking about what we were playing, you just started talking about some game and what you've been playing, and I've tuned out. I'm not saying it was bad. I tuned out because my head hurt, and I looked up at the clock, and I'm like, Maddie's been going for like almost 30 minutes. You were all, I'll get to, what were you, do you remember what he was
talking about?
Talking about?
The Somnium Files, anime, and
there was something else. It was a long one. We had a long starting, by the way. It was almost 45 minutes just for the...
I intentionally, while you guys were talking, I split up our intro versus what we were playing, just so that people can kind of mentally segment that and survive a little bit easier.
Sorry. Be like, sorry. I'm just kidding. I mean, it's still cool. It's just, it went for, it's been two or 3 weeks. Right?
Yeah. We had to make up. Last week
it
was
needs some time with the boys.
Yeah.
Need some time with the boys. Period.
Sure.
Oh, speaking of that. Nope. I can't even bring it up because I'm out of time. We should, no, you don't do movies. Well, occasionally,
put out the proposition. I'm interested.
Or TV shows, because like The Boys becoming a video game. There's now a rumor that's a major developer is now looking at The Boys for a video game, which fucking would be awesome. And it was slipped up by one of the actors, and a voice their voice being used. It would just be fun to occasionally talk about something like that. Because I think we miss out a little bit on not being able to talk about those as much. So I got to force you to watch some movies. Okay. I just don't know how to do it. I don't know.
I've already seen it, but I'll watch The Joker again. I got it in Blu-ray.
Never seen that, by the way.
Whoa.
Never seen The Joker.
I love that movie. It's so good. You should go see it, Karak. I love that.
Dude, see, the difference between you and me is I'll fucking watch it tonight. Because I'm a man of my fucking word.
No, I definitely had a habit.
Shots
here's
fired.
the thing. just
Yeah,
not
no.
to stretch this out, but I just gotta say, I've accepted when it comes to consumption of anything outside of video games, I will never satisfy anybody. Because when I'm not watching anime, I'm watching too many movies. When I'm watching too many movies, I'm not watching enough anime. I'm missing this show. I'm missing something somewhere.
There's a lot going on too.
Yeah. And
Right?
not even like, new
It's pretty
shit.
crazy.
It's like, you got to go back and watch this, or you got to go over and watch that.
Right. When I first
Always.
knew you, I think I mentioned something because I didn't know how much of a human travesty you were for TV shows.
Definitely.
And I mentioned it was Avengers. It was a superhero movie, and you were like, dude, I haven't seen that. And I was like, what the fuck? No human on the earth with eyes hasn't seen that. What do you mean?
I remember calling. I was thinking the other day, and out of all places, I was in the shower. I was thinking of you in the shower, I guess. And I was,
That's okay.
I was thinking of the time I called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hot garbage and then quickly rolled back my statement because I realized I was too harsh. And you're like, dude, you just called it human garbage. Like, I don't think you can call it decent after that. Like, you just called me on my shit. And I'm like, damn, good thing I'm not in like TV criticism because that was bad.
Good times.
Yeah.
Getting to know one another. Never quite sure what somebody's going to say.
You're like, hey, I'm going to run a podcast with this fucking idiot. See how
dude,
fun
that
it
should
is.
be the that should be the hashtag hot garbage.
Hot garbage.
People,
God,
Sure.
there you go.
That's so wrong. It's so wrong.
All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed. Let us know if you got this deep on Twitter with the hashtag hot garbage. We look forward to hearing from you. And with that, it's time for us to sign out. We'll catch you guys later. All right. As Karak tries to hold in his laughter. All right. Peace out.